My battleship can be upgraded. Chapter 41. Wang Dong had a reason for not choosing to enable the auxiliary system's optional function at this time. On one hand, it was naturally due to the insufficient quantity of low-level energy crystals, with only 2 units available. On the other hand, in this life, Wang Dong did not want to be permanently bound to the battle axe, which was now the pond. The pond was only a third-generation ship, with severely insufficient growth potential. Its inherent quality was also not high. Before his rebirth, he had no choice, but after his rebirth, Wang Dong had higher demands for his flagship. The pond could only serve as a transitional ship. There was no need to waste energy crystals on it. Regarding how to handle the pond, Wang Dong had set up a plan since his rebirth. Firstly, the pond, which was originally the battle axe, had to be acquired first. Although the battle axe would bring a series of troubles, especially the Jin family's pursuit. However, the Mirage system and the other 3 additional modules were temptations Wang Dong could not give up. Secondly, after inheriting the battle axe from Yuan Shu, Wang Dong had a bottom line in his heart. That was to absolutely not expose his identity. If this bottom line could not be achieved, Wang Dong would resolutely give up the battle axe. Life and wealth, which is more important, Wang Dong was not an ordinary hot-blooded youth, he could distinguish between them. Of course, before giving up the battle axe, Wang Dong would first remove and hide the additional modules on the battle axe. And the development of events was much smoother than expected. After obtaining enough source points through multiple alien space battlefields, performing hull repair and renaming the warship was a must. Due to the buffer time limit of the shipboard fire seed, after each entry into the alien space battlefield, at least 1 month was needed before being able to cross time and space again to enter the alien space battlefield. It was originally estimated that this process would take several months. However, thanks to the dedicated contribution of the Cliff Tai civilization, Wang Dong only spent a few days to achieve this goal. After upgrading both the armor and Sky Patrol radar modules to LV.2, the pond's standard main cannon, armor, engine, and Sky Patrol radar, these standard modules, all reached LV.2. At the same time, the pond's comprehensive combat power evaluation level also rose to LV.7. The basic public information of the warship would also change from the original Scout-class destroyer Battle Axe LV.6 inches to Scout-class destroyer Pond LV.7. Now it was truly safe enough. The Pond, with a comprehensive evaluation of LV.7, compared to the Battle Axe, with a comprehensive evaluation of LV.6, was completely 2 different warships. Just now, Wang Dong spent a full 1,300 source points to rename and reinforce the warship modules, transforming the battle axe into the pond. 1,300 source points, according to the average rate at which a fire seed warship obtains source points, meant at least several decades of effort. With this change, Wang Dong finally succeeded in drawing a sufficiently deep line between the pond and the original battle axe. A line that would take at least several decades to cross. At this moment, after returning to this universe, the pond would no longer be directly associated with the battle axe. There were still plenty of source points left, enough to reinforce a standard module on the pond once or twice. But Wang Dong did not continue to reinforce standard modules. Instead, he turned his attention to the additional modules. Whether it was the Quantum Entanglement Brainwave Control System's remote control function or the Mirage System's super stealth function, both were irreplaceable for Wang Dong at this stage. Therefore, it was more valuable to prioritize spending source points on these 2 modules. The Pond, with a comprehensive combat power evaluation level of LV.7, was already sufficient for use in the alien space battlefield at this stage. When a Fire Seed warship's comprehensive evaluation level exceeds LV.10, its opponents in the alien space battlefield will no longer be first-tier interstellar civilizations, which are like easy prey. On the contrary, there will even be a probability of encountering a third-tier interstellar civilization. To be on the safe side, he decided not to further increase the pond's comprehensive evaluation level for now. In any case, what he had to do next was to hide carefully, not to jump out and confront head-on. Upgrade the Quantum Entanglement Brainwave Control System from LV.0 to LV.1. Consume 200 source points, 1 ton of gas ore. Reinforce the quantum entanglement brainwave control system green LV.0 to LV.1, taking 30 minutes. Are you sure? Confirmed. Remaining source points, 317. Do you want to consume 1 unit of low-level energy crystal to double the module's growth value? This time, Wang Dong chose yes. Immediately, half of the only 2 units of low-level energy crystals he had were consumed again. The quantum entanglement brainwave control system green LV.1 upgrade is complete. Current attributes are as follows. Energy consumption, 1 point per hour. Range, 0.05 light years. Upgrade requirements. 1. 200 source points. 2. 2 tons of gas ore. The range increased by 0.04 light years. If the auxiliary system's double growth value were excluded, then under normal circumstances, this reinforcement would increase the range by 0.02 light years. The reinforcement increase of additional modules was clearly greater than that of standard modules. This was also one of the reasons why Wang Dong valued additional modules more. They had higher growth potential. Coupled with the auxiliary system, just one reinforcement directly increased the range of the quantum entanglement brainwave control system to 5 times its original range. Terrifying indeed. This was the correct way to unleash a cheat code. Instead of being hammered to death by others before he could develop, as he was before his rebirth. The LV.0 quantum entanglement brainwave control system has a range of only 0.01 light years, which is too short. Whether now or in the near future, Wang Dong is headed to the Blackstone Barony, and it is foreseeable that he will not be able to act freely in the short term. For the pond, he will mostly have to rely on remote control. Therefore, the greater the control range, the better, as this gives the pond more options. Not to mention that just look at the present. The airspace within the mining area Starfield has probably already gathered a large number of spaceships to search for the battle axe's whereabouts. A distance of 0.01 light years is completely insufficient for Wang Dong. A distance of 0.05 light years is also a bit lacking. Upgrade the quantum entanglement brainwave control system from LV.1 to LV.2. As everyone knows, a man cannot be short and weak. Short comes first. Seeing that the source points and the gas ore in the cargo hold were still sufficient, Wang Dong unhesitatingly continued to strengthen the quantum entanglement brainwave control system. Consume 200 source points and 2 tons of gas ore. Upgrade the quantum entanglement brainwave control system green LV.1 to LV.2. This will take 1 hour. Are you sure? Confirm. Remaining source points, 117. Do you want to consume 1 unit of low-level energy crystal to double the module's growth value? Wang Dong still chose yes. Thus, the last 1 unit of low-level energy crystal he had was also fed to the system. The quantum entanglement brainwave control system green LV.2 upgrade is complete. Current attributes are as follows. Energy consumption, 1 point per hour. Range, 0.09 light years. Conditions for upgrade. 1. 200 source points. 2. 3 tons of gas ore. The range increased by another 0.04 light years, reaching 0.09 light years. Compared to LV.0, it is 9 times the original. Now it is no longer short. The source points on the pond are no longer sufficient to continue upgrading the green quality quantum entanglement brainwave control system. The low-level energy crystals he had on hand were also all consumed. Looking at the time, the alien space battlefield was about to end. After 1 day of mining and 1 day of fighting, Wang Dong was quite fatigued. After all, it was a body that had not undergone forging technique training, and both his energy and stamina were quite limited. The Mirage system was not activated. The Mirage system's cooldown period is 24 hours, which is equivalent to the duration of the alien space battlefield. Wang Dong had activated the Mirage system before entering the alien space battlefield, but the cooldown period started counting when the warship exited its cloaked state. Therefore, it was still a little short of completing the cooldown at this time. Otherwise, being able to remain cloaked and then exit the alien space battlefield would be even more concealed. After increasing the enhancement level, this cooldown period would be reduced. However, Wang Dong was not worried. As the original, battle axe, completely transformed into the pond, which differed in appearance, name, and overall combat power evaluation level, the sense of insecurity that had always lingered in Wang Dong's mind had faded considerably. Even if the pond could not remain cloaked and was exposed to the public, it would no longer be a major issue. The only thing Wang Dong needed to conceal was his identity as the captain of the pond. He himself was a cautious person by nature. Before his rebirth, he had suffered from a lack of experience and some objective reasons, which led to his identity being exposed. After his rebirth, he was even more careful and proceeded step by step. So far, everything had gone smoothly. Soon, the 24-hour duration of the alien space battlefield also came to an end. Without any anomalies, the figure of the pond quickly faded in alien space. A sense of dizziness struck again, and the next moment, the pond appeared silently in the main universe. Just as it had left, it returned without a sound. As soon as he recovered from the dizziness, Wang Dong began to check the status of the pond. The location was not far from the previous entry point. After exiting the alien space battlefield, the appearing location is generally near the entry point, but not exactly the same. Scout Class Destroyer LV.7 Pond. Standard Main Cannon Green, LV.2, Standard Armor Green, LV.2, Standard Engine, LV.2, Standard Sky Patrol Radar, LV.2, Standard Energy Shield, LV.2, Standard Ship Hull Structure Green, LV.0. Shipboard Fire Seed Status. Buffering, 696 hours. Attached modules. Flying Mare Warp Device Purple Quantum Entanglement Brainwave Control System Green, LV.2, Mirage System Gold, LV.0. Remaining source points. 117, source point acquisition rate, 25%. Main cannon ammunition remaining, 3 rounds, secondary cannon ammunition remaining, 1312, energy remaining, 987, living supplies remaining, 392 units. Armor damage, 0%, ship hull damage, 0%. The armor damage had been completely repaired, and the ship hull damage was due to the Fire Seed warship's self-repair. Under normal circumstances, the ship hull damage sustained by a Fire Seed warship would gradually recover over time. This is one of the differences between a Fire Seed warship and an ordinary warship. What does it mean to be durable and exceptionally long-lasting? This is it. Next, Wang Dong first connected to the miniature detector he had left before entering the alien space battlefield. He reviewed the footage. No other spacecraft or warships had approached, nor had any anomalies occurred. The pond continued to maintain a silent state, and after a period of time, no abnormal signals were received. Alert cleared. Only then did Wang Dong pilot the mining ship and leave the pond. He resumed his identity as an interstellar miner. He focused on mining. He also searched for traces of energy crystals. Of the 3 units of low-level energy crystal he had originally obtained, 1 unit had already been consumed by the auxiliary system when it captured the different space signal. The remaining 2 units of low-level energy crystal were used for the doubling enhancement function when strengthening the quantum entanglement brainwave control system. They were all used up. Over the next dozen hours of searching, Wang Dong found nothing. The existence of energy crystals, after all, still depended on luck. Effort alone does not always guarantee a reward. Things in the world are often like this. Wang Dong had originally adopted a go-with-the-flow attitude and was not in a hurry. Unlike before his rebirth, when he was forced into the spotlight to face the storm, now he had successfully hidden himself behind the scenes, so he had plenty of time. Low-level energy crystals still circulated in small quantities in places like the mining area Starfield. If Wang Dong acquired only 1 or 2 units, it would not arouse any suspicion. Who doesn't have a little collecting hobby? He returned. He delivered the minerals he had collected. Wang Dong returned home to rest. The next day, he went to Meizu Internet Cafe again. The daily life of an ordinary interstellar miner.jpg. Wang Dong's role-playing was perfect. At the same time, on a Jin family warship, after many days of searching, they still hadn't found any trace of the battle axe. Little 16th, why are you here? Sima Disao, whose features were sinister, stared intently at the young man on the virtual screen and asked angrily. 13th brother, I'm just afraid that Yuan Shu, that stray dog, might make a desperate last stand and try a counterattack, getting you into trouble. The young man looked somewhat proper, but his words were sarcastic. Sima Disao's eyes twitched slightly, suppressing the anger in his heart, and said in a deep voice, Yuan Shu is already in my grasp and has suffered a fatal blow. How could he possibly fight back? I appreciate 16th brother's good intentions and will surely repay him in the future. What follows is simply a search operation, which I can handle alone. Please return first, 16th brother. Ha 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 ha, 13th brother, if things were really as smooth as you say, you wouldn't be so miserable as to waste time in this godforsaken asteroid belt mining area. Even a cornered rabbit bites, let alone Yuan Shu's battle axe, which has been on the family's bounty list for quite a few years. Let me help you out. The young man continued leisurely, completely unconcerned by Sima Disao's anger. Sima Delang. Don't think that just because you've been assigned an LV.12 destroyer, you can challenge your older brothers. Let me tell you, you're still too naive. Sima Disao could no longer suppress the anger in his heart and roared furiously. If you want to snatch the fruits of my labor, you have to see if you have the ability. Combat isn't decided solely by comparative comprehensive combat power ratings. You'd best spend a few more years learning in virtual combat. The family's bounty targets are the battle axe and Yuan Shu, regardless of who strikes first. As long as I can find the battle axe first, this family bounty will be mine, Sima Delang's. Sima Delang's laughter was full of mockery and naked contempt. Sima Disao, I call you 13th brother out of respect, but if I don't give you face, what are you even? You're just barely clinging to the edge of the main lineage through connections, and you actually think of yourself as a direct descendant. You, of all people, want to tell me you'll repay me later. It's simply hilarious, ha 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 ha. Sima Disao gritted his teeth tightly. He had long disliked his cousin Sima Delang, who was also of the generation and ranked 16th. When Sima Disao came of age, the family offered him a choice, an LV.9 second-generation fire seed warship or a first-generation fire seed warship. If Sima Disao had sufficient family background and resources, a first-generation fire seed warship would have been the best choice. However, as Sima Delang mocked, Sima Disao's inclusion in the Jin family's direct descendant ranks was due to his mother's influence after remarrying. Therefore, an LV.9 fire seed warship that could save him decades of struggle became his first choice. Over the next decade or so, Sima Disao seized the opportunity and worked hard, managing to painstakingly raise his flagship's comprehensive combat power rating to LV.11. But what was Sima Delang? He was just a dandy who, relying on his good family background, acquired an LV.12 second-generation fire seed warship as soon as he came of age. And this was even a tool ship specifically prepared for others to practice with. How could Sima Disao bear this? Do not underestimate the difference of a few levels between LV.9 and LV.12, this means a difference of 1,000 source points, which would take 20 years to make up. Furthermore, Sima Delang's pursuit of Sima Disao, arriving at this remote mining area starfield right after him, was clearly an attempt to snatch the fruits of his labor. That alone would be fine. Competition was ubiquitous among Jin family disciples, and Sima Disao had also snatched others' fruits before. The most crucial point was that Sima Delang, this dandy, lacked no resources. He lacked neither merits from bounty missions nor actual resources. He was simply looking to cause trouble for Sima Disao. It was detrimental to others and useless to himself. Sima Disao could no longer suppress his emotions. While Sima Delang's status was noble, Sima Disao was also among the direct descendants. If he didn't retaliate sufficiently, not only would his reputation be ruined, causing everyone to look down on him, but even the strange looks from the crew members in the command cabin right now would make Sima Disao restless. On the contrary, if he could suppress Sima Delang's arrogance, Sima Disao's position would see a significant improvement. At least among his peers, he would no longer fear anyone. Sima Delang, my dear 16th brother, don't get too pleased too soon. Yuan Shu's battle axe is very likely hidden in this asteroid belt. Yuan Shu is definitely dead, but the battle axe might not be an empty ship. The astronomical environment here is too complex, perfect for the battle axe to leverage its advantages. 16th brother, don't stumble and get ambushed by the battle axe. You should know that in this asteroid belt, even if a warship is sunk, a distress signal might not even be able to be sent out. Sima Disao reined in his anger and spoke with a sinister tone. Sima Delang didn't mind the murderous intent contained within, grinning as he said, I've wanted to see the capabilities of my 13th brother, nicknamed Mad Dog, for a long time. Don't disappoint me. Sima Disao gave a cold snort and cut off the communication. He had coveted the rumored special module on the battle axe for a long time, how could he allow Sima Delang to interfere? It was simply a matter of proving himself in battle. Turning his head, he instructed the communications officer, contact Zongda, ask him where he is. Why is he even slower than Sima Delang? Is he dawdling, thinking this is a spring outing? The communications officer quickly assented. Sima Disao was clearly in a rage, and he dared not explain on his behalf. Sima Delang had a fire seed warship, while Sima Zongda only had an ordinary scout ship. How could he possibly catch up? Wang Dong was completely unaware of the conflicts among the Jin family disciples. However, Wang Dong was no stranger to either Sima Delang or Sima Zongda. In his previous life, after setting a trap to sink Sima Disao's warship, Wang Dong directly faced Sima Delang and Sima Zongda. Sima Delang's recklessness and Sima Zongda's meticulous thinking both caused Wang Dong considerable trouble. This time, mining area planet, Maizu Internet Cafe. Open Kunpeng live platform. Inside the Maizu Internet Cafe's access pod, Wang Dong calmly gave the command. What is the star domain network? It's a network connecting the entire star domain, achieved through quantum communication technology. The cost is not low, and it can only be used in places with specialized equipment like the Maizu Internet Cafe. Wang Dong's home optical computer could also connect to the internet, but it connected to the regional network of the mining area starfield. To activate the star domain network function, he would have to pay additional exorbitant fees and purchase a specialized access pod. Therefore, for live streaming platforms like Kunpeng Live Platform, which are built upon the star domain network and cover most of the Zijing Kingdom's territory, Wang Dong could only watch them at an internet cafe. As for the Goldfinch Federation, unfortunately, they used the Goldfinch Federation's star domain network, which was not interconnected with the Zijing Kingdom's network. Political factors, quite normal. After issuing the command, Wang Dong's perspective changed again. The vast starlight dimmed, and a small black hole appeared in front. A giant whale was being pulled by the black hole's gravity, struggling desperately. The black hole's gravity was too strong, easily distorting the protective force field around the giant whale. Just as the giant whale was being pulled deeper into the black hole, a milky white light suddenly burst from within its body. The milky white light instantly enveloped the entire whale. The next moment, the light bloomed, and an enormous rock spread its wings and soared. It effortlessly broke free from the black hole's gravitational field, and with a single flap of its wings, it traversed distances measured in light years, appearing before Wang Dong. Wang Dong stepped onto the rock's wings, which were as vast as a continent. The rock then warped again, instantly carrying Wang Dong to the heavens. The rock spreads its wings, soaring through the 9 heavens. Welcome to Kunpeng Live Platform, esteemed Hanfeng. You have not logged into this platform for 28 days. We welcome your return once again. In Wang Dong's vision, the 410 star systems of the Zijing Kingdom were displayed as miniature star system maps. Wherever his gaze landed, the corresponding star system map would enlarge to the center of his vision, and all the planets within that star system would display their data cards one by one. Please select the star system or planet you wish to visit. If you need recommendations, please state the corresponding range. For example, I want to see pretty girls. Wang Dong. Brother Kunpeng, you've gotten cheeky, huh? It's actually been updated like this. What happened to the promised peaceful live streaming and peaceful society? Swallowed by a black hole. Wang Dong naturally wouldn't choose to flip the card for any pretty girls, though he admitted he felt a little curious. Go to Glory Warship Expo. The thumbnail of the capital star system jumped before Wang Dong's eyes, and then, on the outermost orbit of the star system, a massive space station came into view. Esteemed Hanfeng, Due to your permissions, only parts of the Glory Warship Expo are accessible. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause. Some content in the Glory Warship Expo involved military secrets, which Wang Dong was not surprised by. The Zijing Kingdom's Glory Warship Expo was quite famous in the nearby star systems. It was personally established by one of the Zijing Kingdom's kings. This king was a warship enthusiast. He used the kingdom's resources to collect data on many warships and create virtual models. The data within the Warship Expo even included the super-large deep space flagship used by the ancestors of this human civilization, the Seed Fleet, during their long voyage. It's possible there was some exaggeration for propaganda, but this was the most comprehensive source of information Wang Dong could access. The universe is infinitely vast. Even if a warship's speed could reach the speed of light, it would be far from enough. For this reason, various interstellar civilizations in the cosmos invented interstellar travel technologies based on their own civilizational paths. Such as space warping, warp drive, wormhole generators, stellar gravity well jumps, positive and negative space traversal, and so on. 56 billion civilizations, 56 billion flowers, countless methods. Of course, these advanced technologies mentioned above are mostly in the hands of high-level interstellar civilizations. A few even rely on their own racial talent trees and have little to do with human civilization. Early human civilization, after several technological explosions, finally unlocked nuclear fusion technology and lit up the high molecular material technology tree, boldly venturing into space and ascending to a first-tier interstellar civilization. After successfully bullying a newly emerged first-tier interstellar civilization from a nearby planet with mushroom bombs, human civilization became overconfident. Adopting a big ship plus mushroom approach, human civilization successfully controlled the star systems within 10 light-years centered on the solar system. At that time, human civilization, having broken through planetary limitations, gained the ability to acquire resources from the universe, and thus, a massive influx of resources poured into Water Blue Star. The mother Water Blue Star, which had been nearly drained by her children, was suddenly well-fed and satisfied. The entire human civilization flourished, and under the supply of vast materials, a new round of technological explosion began. Deep space jump appeared. Although deep space jump had many drawbacks, such as the inability to precisely control the jump's destination and distance. It was, after all, a superluminal travel technology. Having it or not having it was a fundamental difference. A first-tier interstellar civilization developed superluminal interstellar travel technology, which was typically possessed only by fourth-tier and above interstellar civilizations. This was a miracle in the true sense of the word. After mastering deep space jump, human civilization continued to expand. A first-tier interstellar civilization was able to enjoy the treatment of a fourth-tier interstellar civilization in advance. This was blessed by destiny, so why be modest? Warships were launched and commissioned one after another. Human civilization began to militarize aggressively, sweeping across the universe, and in just a few centuries, expanded its territory from a radius of 10 light-years to dozens of light-years, and this range was still continuously expanding. Then, it encountered a Camorra civilization pioneering team. It annihilated them. A hornet's nest was stirred. Camorra civilization is a general term. The entire Camorra supercluster contains over 600 interstellar civilizations, with complex interrelationships. The pioneering fleet sunk by the Water Blue Star human civilization's vanguard belonged to a first-tier interstellar civilization, a member of the Camorra civilization, and a subordinate civilization of another third-tier Camorra civilization. They called their parents. This third-tier interstellar civilization was not interested in the loss of a mere first-tier interstellar civilization's subordinate pioneering fleet, but it was very interested in the Water Blue Star civilization, also a first-tier interstellar civilization. What kind of situation was it for a first-tier interstellar civilization to control dozens of light-years of space? Undoubtedly, it had mastered some kind of superluminal travel technology. It was like a pie falling from the sky. This third-tier interstellar civilization had been stuck at the third tier for tens of thousands of years, lacking only a superluminal interstellar travel technology. Without hesitation, it assembled a legion and launched an expedition to Water Blue Star. In 3998 AD, the war between the Water Blue Star Federation and the Camorra civilization ended, with the Water Blue Star civilization defeated. Only then came the Seed Fleet, and then this human civilization billions of light years away, and then the Zijing Kingdom, and then Guangdong. Guangdong, haha. The electronic data images displayed in the Glory Warship Expo included the super-large deep space flagship used by the Seed Fleet during their long voyage. This super-large deep space flagship was the size of a city, carrying millions of people. Not only did it have a complete internal closed-loop ecological system for large-scale planting and farming, but it also carried a super-large, wide-area deep space jump system newly developed by the Water Blue Star civilization during the century-long war with the third-tier Camorra interstellar civilization. After charging, the super-large, wide-area deep space jump system could perform wide-area ultra-long-range random space jumps. These were space jumps whose destination could not be determined. Wide-area ultra-long-range random space jump was another breakthrough for the Water Blue Star civilization in deep space jump technology. Humans called random deep space jump with speeds exceeding 10,000 times the speed of light and jump distances exceeding 10,000 light-years, wide-area ultra-long-range random space jump. Although it still couldn't precisely control the exact landing point of the jump, this evolved version of deep space jump technology had, in some aspects, surpassed the superluminal interstellar travel technology of most sixth-tier civilizations. It was simply black technology. Unfortunately, apart from being used for escape, this technology had little value. After all, the destination of the jump could not be controlled. Each jump led to an unfamiliar star system tens of thousands of light-years away. Getting lost in space was a certainty. Once jumped out, unless one was incredibly lucky, there was basically no hope of ever returning. The Water Blue Star civilization ultimately lost the war. But a total of 3,108 seed fleets, relying on the wide-area ultra-long-range random space jump of their super-large deep space flagships, mostly successfully escaped the Camorra civilization's encirclement. The seeds of the Water Blue Star civilization were scattered throughout the universe. Some may have perished prematurely for various reasons before taking root. But most of the civilization seeds found suitable star systems and continued to perpetuate and expand human civilization. The Water Blue Star civilization successfully unlocked the cosmic sowing achievement. Today, 10,000 years later, through the Kunpeng Live platform, Guangdong was able to glimpse this super-large deep space flagship, of which each civilization's seed fleet had only one. After 10,000 years of erosion, this deep space flagship had long since decayed. It is said that the flagship's main body is currently preserved in the People's Heroes Memorial Square on Chang'an Star, the capital star of the heavenly Tang Empire. The Glory Warship Expo contains a complete set of electronic data models of the super-large deep space flagship. Having a complete set of electronic data models allows for a more comprehensive and in-depth understanding of this deep space flagship, which embodies the most cutting-edge technology of the old Water Blue Star civilization. Just as Guangdong was doing now. Request to visit the super-large deep space flagship. Request accepted. Data loading. Loading successful. The next moment, Guangdong landed in a spacious command bridge, which, compared to a destroyer's command bridge, was like the difference between a villa and a thatched hut. Deep space voyage. Rebuild home. The flame of civilization, never extinguished. Water Blue Star civilization super-large deep space flagship. Ship number 099, welcomes you. A soft electronic female voice sounded. Guangdong took a deep breath. Although it was not his first time visiting this flagship. Each time he heard this welcome message, Guangdong deeply felt the interwoven despair of losing a home and the hope of rebuilding civilization, the confusion of facing an unknown journey, and the pressure of heavy responsibilities, all the emotions converging into that determined and resolute pride. Deep space voyage, rebuild home, the flame of civilization, never extinguished. This is human civilization. Even in another universe, human civilization is still human civilization. After a complete tour of the legendary super-large deep space flagship, more than 4 hours had passed. Guangdong was still not satisfied. He immediately opened Star Sea Conquest, and tried his hand at a few rounds. 3 wins and 2 losses. The performance gap was too large, no amount of maneuvering could turn the tide. Then he tried to participate in a 1,000-ship battle. It was indeed thrilling. The feeling of a large battlefield was completely different from single-ship combat. It placed more emphasis on the discipline of battle formations and the level of command and dispatch. The role of a single ship within it was diluted to the minimum. Immersed in it, time flew by, and in a blink of an eye, it was time to log off. Somewhat regrettably, 222 was not online the entire time. After all, the young girl was a student and couldn't spend every day in the virtual network. After leaving Maizu Internet Cafe, Wang Dong did not go straight home. Wang Dong came from an orphanage, but that didn't mean he was completely alone. He still had social connections. Apart from the interstellar minor circle, Wang Dong maintained full contact with companions who had received primary education with him. In simple terms, they were classmates. Without mentioning the situation in other parts of the Zijing Kingdom, at least within the Blackstone Barony, a 12-year primary education was universal. As for higher secondary education and beyond, regrettably, the Blackstone Barony could not provide it. Wang Dong was going to a small-scale class reunion today. 10 minutes before the agreed time, he entered the private room, where 16 or 17 male and female classmates had already arrived. Wang Dong greeted everyone with a smile. Like Wang Dong, most of his classmates, after finishing primary education, could only stay in the mining area Starfield and find a job. Although it was heavy industry related to mining, the work tasks in the mining area Starfield were not actually strenuous. After all, in the interstellar era, exploiting physical labor, with the advancement of technology, seemed inefficient and meaningless. Even for the common people, most people's lives were not tight or difficult. It was not hard to support oneself and one's family. With less pressure in life and the relatively monotonous daily routine on the mining area planet, class reunions were quite frequent. Wang Dong, how have your recent gains been? After Wang Dong found a seat, the first to approach him was a burly, bronze-skinned handsome young man. This was Chen Linfang, Wang Dong's good friend, who had been his deskmate for 3 years. In addition, he would often bring Wang Dong, who came from the orphanage, home for various reasons. Chen Linfang's family also treated Wang Dong as one of their own, like a son or nephew. Even after Wang Dong chose the profession of interstellar miner after graduation, he still frequently visited the Chen family. He draped his strong arm over Wang Dong's shoulder, handing him a can of foamy beer, and greeted him. So, not bad. How about you? I heard the factory is adding another production line. Is there any hope for advancement? Wang Dong casually took the beer and took a big gulp. The refreshing liquid flowed down his esophagus into his stomach, bringing a chill along the way. He let out a contented sigh and replied somewhat lazily. Chen Linfang currently worked at a fairly large smelter. It's not that easy. The production line hasn't even started being procured, and related positions like team leader are already mostly reserved. By the time we hear about it, it'll be too late. Chen Linfang scoffed disdainfully. Wang Dong patted his broad shoulder sympathetically. The disadvantage in information was the most common reason for the differing heights in human society. Actually, it doesn't matter. If it weren't for the old man's demands, I wouldn't bother wasting my life in the smelter. Chen Linfang said indifferently. Wang Dong believed this, his good friend had never been a stable person. Wang Dong, I want to find an opportunity to go to the Highland Viscount territory. There are intermediate education academies for warships there. I want to try and see if I can get in. Pulling Wang Dong closer, Chen Linfang whispered in his ear. Wang Dong raised an eyebrow. The existence of Fire Seed warship was not too big a secret. After all these years, those who needed to know already knew. Furthermore, Fire Seed warship also needed personnel for various different positions. Ship crew members for various units such as helmsman, radar operator, engine room, damage control, and even service personnel, still needed to be recruited externally. Therefore, for common people, after professional training, working on a Fire Seed warship was also a very good career path. But it must be said that Chen Linfang's idea was a bit bold. In the feudal Zijing kingdom, the movement of common people between different noble territories was not easy. To go through normal channels for immigration procedures, one could only wait for an opportunity. Especially for common people like Chen Linfang, who were born and raised there. You're not thinking of stowing away, are you? Uncle Chen would probably kill you. Wang Dong also replied softly. No, I wouldn't. If I stowed away, my whole family would be implicated. Chen Linfang waved his hands repeatedly. I just heard from Zheng Yuan that Blackstone Territory is preparing to sign a limited open trade agreement with Highland Viscount Territory recently. One of the package clauses includes an education-related item, allowing the people of Blackstone Barony to apply for secondary education colleges in Highland Viscount Territory. Wang Dong frowned and recalled carefully. It seemed there was indeed such a thing. Highland Viscount Territory and Blackstone Barony are neighbors. A Viscount is one rank higher than a Baron, but there isn't necessarily a direct subordinate relationship between the two. For example, Blackstone Barony is an pioneering lord directly infeft by His Majesty the King, while the Viscount of Highland is a local lord infeft by the Earl of Tianfang in the Northern Territory Star region. The two have completely different subordinate relationships. The Blackstone Baron directly pledges allegiance to His Majesty the King of the Kingdom. The Viscount of Highland, on the other hand, follows the orders of the Earl of Tianfang and does not need to pay too much attention to the will of His Majesty the King. Even though the Earl of Tianfang was also an pioneering lord who obtained his enfeoffment after pledging allegiance to His Majesty the King. The feudal system is such a peculiar existence. My vassal's vassal is not my vassal. As neighbors, relationships are naturally good and bad. The relationship between Blackstone Barony and Highland Viscount Territory is mostly neutral and indifferent. If this limited open trade agreement can be signed smoothly, it might even rise to neutral and friendly. In Wang Dong's memory, this agreement fell through shortly after. The direct cause can be traced back to Wang Dong himself. Before his rebirth, when he secretly purchased energy blocks, he found Wu Hao's, the head of the Tianfang Earl Territory's 4th Merchant Fleet, who noticed some clues. This led the Tianfang Earl's faction to directly join the pursuit of Wang Dong and battle axe. And Wang Dong, shortly after, was taken back to the Baron territory as the illegitimate son of the Blackstone Baron. This directly provoked the hostility of the Earl of Tianfang, which in turn led to a change in the attitude of Highland Viscount Territory. The limited open trade agreement that Chen Linfang just mentioned naturally became a moon in the water and a flower in the mirror, falling through. This time, Wang Dong did not expose his existence, so he would not attract the covetousness of Tianfang Earl territory as he did before his rebirth, thus avoiding a change in Highland Viscount Territory's attitude. Wang Dong was truly unsure whether this limited open trade agreement could proceed smoothly. The butterfly's wings have already begun to flap, and the wheel of history has already slightly changed direction. Suddenly, Wang Dong had an epiphany. This is a good thing, you should prepare for it. If there's any shortfall in tuition or anything else, just say so. Wang Dong said, giving Chen Linfang an encouraging smile. The income from the smelter work was only so-so, significantly less than that of an interstellar miner. Don't worry, I won't be polite. Chen Linfang grinned. Wang Dong nodded, saying no more. Their relationship did not require excessive politeness. You two grown men, as soon as you arrive, you hide in the corner, being lovey-dovey. Don't you find it an eyesore in public? It really affects the image of our first high, okay. Hearing this, Wang Dong turned his head and nodded to Li Ziqing, who was wearing a pink dress, revealing her fair, lotus root-like arms and slender white legs. He glanced at Chen Linfang, who instantly seemed to shrink and became speechless due to Li Ziqing's appearance, then smiled and said, the study committee member is right, we will actively correct our romantical orientation. I'll go appreciate the beauty of class monitor Zheng Yan, and Lin Feng will be handled by the esteemed study committee member. Li Ziqing had delicate features, a graceful figure, and was poised in her interactions. She was once the class's study committee member, held considerable prestige among her classmates, and was rumored to come from a well-off family. Of course, more importantly, she was the goddess in Chen Linfang's heart, a fact that hadn't changed for years. Li Ziqing was unmoved by Wang Dong's teasing. She extended a slender hand and pointed, and Chen Linfang, understanding, moved a full meter to the side, clearing the spot next to Wang Dong. She cast a satisfied glance at Chen Linfang, ignoring his ingratiating, fawning smile, then pulled a petite and delicate girl next to her and half-forced her into the spot Chen Linfang had vacated. No need to trouble class monitor either, Just take good care of Ding Ling. Wang Dong found Li Ziqing's slight feistiness both exasperating and helpless. He could only glare fiercely at Chen Linfeng, who forgot his friend for a pretty face, then turned to greet Ding Ling, whose small face was flushed. Ding Ling, when did you come back? Long time no see. Ding Ling, with delicate features and a slight baby fat, like a large Barbie doll, softly replied, I just came back 2 days ago to see my grandparents. Wang Dong, it's been almost 11 months since we met after that big class reunion last year. How have you been recently? Although she was responding, Ding Ling's small face was turned to the side, and her hands were gently clasped together at her sides. Wang Dong felt a little uncomfortable. He knew this classmate, with whom he had also shared a desk for 3 years, quite well. She was inherently introverted, not good at socializing, and easily shy, especially when facing Wang Dong. Ding Ling was quite popular with the male students in her class, but she wasn't Wang Dong's type. Wang Dong wasn't a scoundrel, he maintained a steady stance regarding the young girl's overt and subtle affections, never giving any form of affirmation or ambiguous flirtation. He always strictly adhered to the duties of a classmate, treating her with respectful formality. Her father was the chief of public security on mining area planet, holding real power. Would you dare to be a scoundrel with her? As for some people's talk of not wanting to strive, firstly, Ding Ling was not an only child, she had siblings. Secondly, the chief of public security did not belong to the privileged class, although he directly served that class. Thirdly, as a transmigrator, Wang Dong still possessed a mysterious sense of confidence and wasn't about to give up striving so quickly. After an awkward exchange of a few words with Ding Ling, the two, neither of whom were eloquent, began to stare at each other. Looking over at Chen Linfeng, who was chatting animatedly with Li Ziqing, Wang Dong couldn't help but grit his teeth in secret resentment, resolving to lower his favorability rating by 10%. Fortunately, as the agreed-upon time passed, more and more classmates arrived, and the gathering officially began. Following the usual procedure, the host of the gathering spoke first. This time, it was the class monitor, Zheng Yan. If Li Ziqing could be compared to a delicate young woman from a Zhongyan water town, then Zheng Yan was a rose blooming in the Daming Palace. With bright eyes and white teeth, and fair skin, coupled with a gentle and graceful demeanor in every smile and frown, at the tender age of 20, she already exuded a hint of charm, making her the goddess in the hearts of almost all the male students. Most remarkably, her long legs, slender waist, and curvaceous figure displayed captivating lines far surpassing those of her peers. Even Chen Linfeng, whose heart already belonged to someone, couldn't help but be drawn to Zheng Yan. Li Ziqing secretly exerted herself, giving Chen Linfeng a hard stomp on the foot, which brought him back to his senses. As for Wang Dong, he too couldn't hide his appreciative gaze. If anyone in Wang Dong's social circle had the most hope of achieving class ascension through their own efforts, moving from the commoner class into the privileged class, it would be Zheng Yan. Not only was she a natural beauty, but Zheng Yan also possessed talents commensurate with her looks. Of course, Wang Dong didn't know whether Zheng Yan ultimately succeeded. Rebirth didn't mean gaining God's eye and knowing everything. Although he had been reborn, Wang Dong didn't know much about the subsequent situations of these classmates. Before his rebirth, he was constantly on the run, experiencing a miserable life. His channels for receiving information were limited, primarily focusing on information directly related to his own safety. He also didn't have the energy to pay attention to other things that seemed relatively less important. Inside the private room, Zheng Yan stood up, and with a brief glance around, the entire room naturally quieted down. She effortlessly held the room's attention. After a few welcoming remarks, Zheng Yan quickly got to the point. This gathering is mainly for a piece of news. Indeed, some classmates may already know that our Blackstone barony is negotiating with Highland Viscount territory regarding the establishment of a limited open trade agreement. There are many rumors, but I have reliable sources of information that the negotiation process is relatively smooth, and within 2 months at the latest, both sides will most likely reach an agreement. Zheng Yan's beautiful eyes scanned the room, and seeing that apart from a few classmates who showed excitement, most others were still bewildered, she wasn't surprised. Those with the ability to see the bigger picture from small details were always a minority. Even though she had already screened the attendees for this gathering, those who were completely unmotivated and content with the status quo were not notified. But having ambition doesn't necessarily mean one can truly advance. Crossing classes is often destined to be a long and arduous process, and facing it alone is certainly not as good as journeying together with mutual support. At least, this is true during the initial accumulation phase. Zheng Yan didn't keep them in suspense. After noting down her observations, she presented her suggestions. They were not much different from what Wang Dong had just heard Chen Linfang say. It was nothing more than seizing opportunities and striving to enter upward channels. At the same time, classmates should help each other and make progress together. For a time, many classmates' hearts stirred. Chen Linfang listened with flushed cheeks and animated expressions. Wang Dong listened attentively on the surface, but his heart remained unmoved. Zheng Yan's intentions were not bad. No matter what, encouraging people to strive upwards is never a bad thing. However, Wang Dong's own path was already set. His starting point was being the captain of a fire seed warship, completely eliminating the need to start from scratch like ordinary commoners. Step by step, through screening, entering a specialized academy, diligently studying, and then going through several rounds of screening, only the cream of the crop could then go to a fire seed warship and get the chance to slowly climb up from the bottom. It could be described as enduring 9981 trials, and even then, success was not guaranteed. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong had not attended this gathering. At that time, the battle axe suffered heavy damage, and Wang Dong was busy preparing energy blocks to resolve the warship's energy crisis. He had no time for leisure. Not to mention classmate gatherings, he even hastily declined Chen Linfang's several invitations. It could be seen that most of the classmates who attended the gathering were quite enthusiastic. After Zheng Yan, several others eagerly came forward to speak, mostly agreeing and encouraging others. Within just over 2 hours, the gathering reached many consensuses, compiled a list of registrants, and outlined a simple division of labor plan. Their execution was impressive. Wang Dong blended in, showing appropriate interest but also indicating he needed to go back and consider it. A fairly normal reaction. As for whether he would actually go with them to the Highland Viscount territory to take the Warship Academy entrance exam, that was, of course, impossible. The agreement would be signed at least 1 or 2 months later. By then, Wang Dong, if all went well, should have received notification to prepare for his return to the barren territory. The gathering ended, with a few classmates arranging a second round, while the rest began to disperse. Wang Dong, however, stayed put. He was called over by Zheng Yan. Chen Linfang, Ding Ling, and Li Ziqing were also with her. Wang Dong had some guesses about Zheng Yan's actions. Sure enough, compared to her charming smiles and social finesse from earlier. After only a few people remained, Zheng Yan dropped the smile from her face and became serious. If, in front of everyone just now, I was thinking that as classmates, I'd help if I could. Then now, I hope that those of you here can help me, and help yourselves. Everyone remained silent. Even Chen Linfang, who should have been more lively, just tilted his head slightly, looking at Li Ziqing. Zheng Yan was not surprised by their silence. They were all people who had been out in society for a few years, and those she had specifically kept behind were all individuals she had thought highly of, a few outstanding students in their class. If they didn't have this basic composure, Zheng Yan would have doubted her own judgment. Ding Ling, you are Ding Zongchang's third daughter, with older siblings above you and a younger sister below. Even if Ding Zongchang is deeply trusted by the Blackstone Baron, with so many Ding Zongchangs in the Blackstone Barony, can he really send all his children to serve under the Blackstone Baron? How many such slots can your family get, 1 or 2? At most 3, would it even be your turn, you little transparent one stuck in the middle? Zheng Yan's first target was Ding Ling, who had the best family background among them. Ding Ling, who had just been leaning against Wang Dong, her face full of shyness, reacted to Zheng Yan's sharp words with unusual composure. She put away the shyness on her face, sat up straight, lightly brushed her bangs, and said softly, even if I'm not valued much at home, at least getting into the barren territory's administrative system shouldn't be a problem. It's still better than you, class monitor, who can't even step foot into the Duke's manor. Zheng Yan smiled slightly and said dismissively, If your wish, Ding Ling, is merely to find a stable job and then wait for your family to arrange your other half, then I wouldn't have kept you here today. Ding Ling turned and winked at Wang Dong, then pursed her lips without speaking. Wang Dong chuckled wryly. Was he getting caught in the crossfire even while lying down? Zheng Yan turned and looked at Li Ziqing. Ziqing, among the girls in our class, you are the one I admire most. You have high emotional and intellectual intelligence, and you are persistent and determined. More importantly, your vision has never been confined to this mining area planet. It's a pity that the upper limit of the Blackstone barony objectively restricts your growth. What, sitting in a financial position at your father's company for 2 years has made you resign yourself to waiting to take over? Don't you know that the younger brother born to your father's mistress is almost 1 year old? His company probably won't be yours to inherit, will it? Li Ziqing looked up and glared coldly at Zheng Yan. I didn't know the class monitor was such a gossip. Since you said my vision was never on the mining area planet, why would you think I'd be interested in that broken company? Furthermore, negotiations for the limited trade agreement between the Blackstone barony and the Highland Viscount territory began 2 years ago and accelerated a month ago. I know the specific progress better than you. Zheng Yan's smile faded slightly, but she didn't take it too personally, her gaze falling on Chen Linfang, who was next to Li Ziqing. Chen Linfang, has your forging technique reached the elementary perfection stage? If not, the reputation of the Chen family martial arts hall might not be entirely deserved on you. I wouldn't dare to bear the reputation of the Chen family martial arts hall. Besides, the Chen family martial arts hall closed decades ago, so that statement isn't appropriate. Chen Linfang met Zheng Yan's gaze calmly, his eyes brightened without a hint of distraction. When he became serious, his voice was deep and powerful, full of texture. As for forging technique, that's a skill for noble lords, I don't know it. The Chen family's inherited knowledge only has one style, the Hunyuan pile method, and I've only just begun to learn it. Zheng Yan smiled again, not pressing the issue. Her next target was Wang Dong. Before Zheng Yan could speak, Wang Dong waved his hand first and said with a smile, Class monitor, I'm just a wandering martial artist, always timid and without grand ambitions. Please let me off. Before he had even finished speaking, Wang Dong heard a sound. PFF'd. Bah. Hee hee. It wasn't just one sound, but several snickers. Wang Dong was furious and turned to glare. Chen Linfang, who had just been acting righteously, puffed out his cheeks and looked at him innocently. That was one thing. Li Ziqing, who should have maintained a cold expression, subconsciously shifted her gaze to the floor when Wang Dong turned to her, and began counting ants. That was another. Even Ding Ling, next to Wang Dong, pouted and giggled. Even under Wang Dong's gaze, she merely covered her eyes with her small hand, looking exactly like someone trying to hide something by blocking her own view. Zheng Yan, on the other hand, didn't react as much, still looking at Wang Dong with a half-smile. A bunch of useless teammates, Wang Dong sighed helplessly, spreading his hands to indicate he had given up struggling. Class monitor, you speak, and I will humbly accept. Wang Dong, honestly, among everyone in class, you're the one I can't quite figure out. If I say you're aloof, both your classmates and teachers say you're easy to get along with when they talk about you. If I say you're good at networking, after 12 years of basic education, it seems your only deep friendship is with Chen Linfang. As for everyone else, you just get by. You don't have many close friends. That includes Ding Ling, Li Ziqing, and me. Right. Zheng Yan chuckled softly. Wang Dong grinned, not bothering to object. It was the truth, after all. How could a transmigrator's friendships be so cheap? With that group of kids in basic education, if they weren't truly outstanding, they wouldn't even catch his eye. Besides, Wang Dong still had basic camaraderie with his classmates. He just hadn't pursued deeper friendships. His values had always been sound, he wasn't anti-humanity or anti-society. Your grades rarely took first place, usually hovering around the top 10. But what's interesting is that your scores in every assessment were almost identical. No matter the difficulty. An intriguing glint sparkled in Zheng Yan's eyes. And the few times you did take first place were precisely when the assessments were most difficult. Wang Dong, do you take everyone for a fool? Ha ha ha, I just prefer to be low-key, I like to be modest. Wang Dong scratched his scalp, a little embarrassed. He was naive in his youth. Many times, so-called modesty, if not handled properly, can easily turn into feigned modesty. Mainly, it was his first transmigration, and he lacked experience, failing to grasp the right measure. If it were just a preference for feigned modesty, then so be it, that's personal freedom. But Wang Dong, if we talk about having far-reaching vision, Li Ziqing is completely outclassed compared to you. She, like us, doesn't want to waste her life on this remote mining area planet. But you, from the very beginning, have been aiming for the privileged class. What you want to achieve is a leap across social strata. Not a hope, but an absolute certainty. You are certain you can achieve a leap across social strata. Zheng Yan's gaze shone with astonishing interest. What incredible confidence and determination. From the moment I realized this, I had no doubt, Wang Dong, at least on an ideological level, you've left all your classmates behind by at least 2 grades. Facing the assertive Zheng Yan, Wang Dong dropped the grin from his face. With an auxiliary system by his side, he had indeed never doubted himself. Nor had he ever believed that he would be unable to achieve the so-called class ascension. What he needed, in fact, was merely a visible, suitable opportunity that he was fully capable of creating. To achieve the class leap that Zheng Yan and others believed required a lifetime of effort plus enough luck, Wang Dong only needed time. Wang Dong wasn't surprised to have this point seen through. It's easy for a bad person to pretend to be good for a day, but to pretend to be good for a lifetime, that truly makes one a saint. Before his transmigration, Wang Dong was just an ordinary person, he couldn't pretend to be a child. He wasn't an award-winning actor. Even an award-winning actor couldn't pretend to be a child for 10 years. However, in the interstellar era, Wang Dong didn't think this level of precociousness and confidence was too unusual. Orphans from welfare institutions, being precocious or having grand ambitions, wasn't that perfectly normal. As for Zheng Yan's assessment, one could only say that this girl was indeed exceptionally gifted. Among the vast commoner class, the emergence of talents in various aspects completely conformed to all scientific and unscientific laws. Of course, now that everything had been laid bare, it wouldn't be appropriate for Wang Dong to continue feigning ignorance. Thus, Wang Dong shed the superfluous expressions from his face, looking at Zheng Yan with a calm demeanor. One must always have dreams, otherwise, when they come true, wouldn't it be rather unsatisfying? Class monitor, you specifically kept us back and candidly critiqued us, so you must have made up your mind. Why don't you elaborate? Regardless, we still need to show respect to the class monitor. At his words, Chen Linfang nodded in agreement, Li Ziqing crossed her arms silently, and Ding Ling once again put on her shy smile. No one objected. Zheng Yan wasn't surprised either. She had been remarkably candid today, even excessively so, all to create such an environment for a heart-to-heart conversation. Wang Dong's words allowed Zheng Yan to skip the necessary preliminary stages and get straight to the main topic, saving a lot of trouble. Looking deeply at Wang Dong once more, Zheng Yan became even more certain of her judgment. If she could reach a mutual assistance agreement with Wang Dong, the success rate of her plan would increase by at least 10 percentage points. Alas, this man was the only one in the class who could meet her gaze for over a minute and still remain expressionless and unperturbed. He had the potential to be quite beastly. Nonsense. Wang Dong came from an era where divine beasts ran rampant, and his values were impeccably sound. Watching a 6-year-old child grow into an 18-year-old young woman, what would a normal adult soul think? What kind of opinion? One word. No feeling. Still thinking of childhood sweethearts. Your old father's smile will be plastered all over your face. The limited open trade agreement with the Highland Viscount territory is a small path for us to climb upwards. But this path is so narrow that it cannot accommodate many people walking side by side. Zheng Yan's surprising words made everyone pause. As far as I know, although the agreement stipulates that the Highland Viscount territory allows residents of the Blackstone barony to apply to the Highland Viscount territory's secondary education academies. In fact, the annex to the agreement clearly defines the scope and scale of eligible applicants. Hearing this, Wang Dong blinked, beginning to understand. Before his rebirth, he had, after all, spent some time in the Duke's manor, and had a more thorough understanding of the actual situation between the two territories. Within the Zijing kingdom, like most nations, there were many contradictions. One of the main contradictions was the conflict between local nobles and royal power. The king hoped to reclaim direct jurisdiction over local areas and centralize the kingdom. Local nobles naturally refused. The Blackstone barony and the Highland Viscount territory belonged to different factions. The Blackstone barony was a direct noble enfeoffed by His Majesty the King, while the Highland Viscount territory was a subordinate noble belonging to the Tianfang Earl territory. Moreover, since the establishment of the Blackstone barony, there have always been various conflicts with the Highland Viscount territory. Leaving aside other aspects, just the mining area planet where Guangdong was located, which brought various mineral resources to the Blackstone barony, impacted the sales and prices of minerals within the Highland Viscount territory. The relationship between the two was not good. The limited trade agreement signed this time had its own background. For the various clauses in the agreement, both sides also had many restrictions in the annex. For example, regarding the education clause they were discussing, although the Highland Viscount territory allowed residents of the Blackstone barony to apply to the Highland Viscount territory's secondary education academies. The Blackstone barony, fearing a large-scale outflow of talent from its territory, would restrict the scope and number of quotas. The Highland Viscount territory, similarly concerned that the Blackstone barony would excessively enhance its overall strength through this, would also restrict the scope and number of quotas. After such a double reduction and restriction, the difficulty for Guangdong and others to proceed would naturally be greatly increased. Indeed, Zheng Yan then revealed some information she had obtained through her own channels regarding the annex to the agreement. First, within the Blackstone barony, children and relatives of public officials, such as administrative officers, were not allowed to apply. Ding Ling's face was expressionless. Even if she was not valued at home, this could not change her family background. Secondly, applicants needed to sign a contract, agreeing to work for the Highland Viscount territory for at least 20 years after completing their studies. Chen Linfang's expression was displeased. He was an only child and did not want to leave his family for such a long time. The overall number of quotas was limited, and half of them had already been reserved by influential, big figures within the Blackstone barony before the matter was even settled. For the common people, without good connections and preparations for a significant outlay, it would be impossible to secure a spot. Li Ziqing frowned in thought. Li Ziqing's family owned a medium-sized company on the mining area planet, and her father had some connections. But a mining area planet is just a mining area planet. Within the entire Blackstone barony, there was not just one mining area planet. It was really uncertain how much those connections could help in this matter. Moreover, her father might not even be willing to use his connections for Li Ziqing. As for Zheng Yan, given that she had channels to obtain this information, it at least indicated that her network of connections reached this level, and there was still hope. But since she deliberately kept them to discuss this, her plan was clearly not that simple. Among the few, only Wang Dong remained calm, his expression serene. He had little interest in this to begin with. However, this calmness, among the others who each reacted differently, stood out. Although Zheng Yan had some expectations, she couldn't help but be a little surprised. This guy's confidence was quite strong. But no abnormalities could be found. Could it really only be attributed to his self-confidence in his own abilities? A woman's intuition told her it shouldn't be simple. The atmosphere was silent for a moment. Zheng Yan didn't keep them in suspense. After a moment, when they had fully processed the information, she directly revealed the key. Wu Hao's, the person in charge of the Tianfang Earl territory's 4th merchant fleet. She slowly uttered a sentence that astonished everyone. Li Ziqing and the others were naturally surprised by Wu Hao's identity. The name of the Tianfang Earl territory was quite prestigious. Even if Wu Hao's was only the head of a merchant fleet, to them, he was an undeniable, big shot. Furthermore, since Zheng Yan mentioned him, it meant they had a chance to connect with this channel. Compared to the Highland Viscount territory, the Tianfang Earl territory, as its direct superior noble, would certainly have resources that were more than a notch higher. Wang Dong also showed a surprised expression, which made Zheng Yan very happy. It seemed this guy wasn't truly impervious to everything. Of course, the reason for Wang Dong's surprise was entirely because Wu Hao's was one of the names on his little black notebook. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong was looking for Wu Hao's to solve the energy crisis of the battle axe. Not only was he extorted, but Wu Hao's also leaked his information, leading to the Tianfang Earl territory's forces entering and joining in the coveting of Wang Dong and the battle axe. This directly implicated the entire Blackstone barony and put immense pressure on Wang Dong. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong did not attend this class reunion, but he never expected Zheng Yan to have already connected with Wu Hao's. 2 years ago, I met Mr. Wu for the first time. After several interactions and business dealings, we established a certain level of friendship. Mr. Wu greatly appreciated my personal qualities, and recently extended a formal invitation to me. He suggested that I join the Tianfang Earl territory as a reserve talent. Through Mr. Wu's connections, and after 2 rounds of assessment and review, I successfully passed. Speaking of this, Zheng Yan glanced at everyone and found that they all remained silent. There were no aggressive words, nor any emotions like envy or jealousy. Her heart settled. As a reserve talent for the Earl territory, I have the right to form my own small team. I can't say the benefits are great, but there's one thing: all members of the team, including myself, will enjoy certain preferential treatment within the Tianfang Earl territory. Especially in terms of educational resources, we will receive a significant amount of focused training. And if we perform well enough, after the several-year training period ends, we might even gain command of a fire seed warship. Zheng Yan's cheeks were slightly flushed, and her emotions were a little agitated. Li Ziqing, Ding Ling, and Chen Linfeng, who had been fine before, were all moved when they heard about the possibility of gaining command of a fire seed warship. The team Zheng Yan spoke of was certainly a polite way of saying it. In reality, it was a superior-subordinate relationship, and everyone understood this. Therefore, even with the training from the Tianfang Earl territory, several people would have to consider it carefully. But with the crucial point of Fire Seed Warship Command added, its appeal became vastly different. For commoners, becoming a crew member on a Fire Seed warship was, frankly, equivalent to a certain level of life's pinnacle. The path Zheng Yan pointed out now seemed to lead directly to that ultimate goal. How could they not be tempted? Wu Hao's is just the head of a merchant caravan. Are you sure he has the authority to handle matters concerning reserve talents? Li Ziqing was the first to ask. I'm sure. In the Tianfang Earl territory, the right to recommend reserve talents is not difficult to obtain. The recommended candidates need to pass specialized assessments and reviews. If they pass, the recommender will receive many rewards. Whether one can become a reserve talent mainly depends on oneself, not the recommender. The assessment I took was held at the Government Affairs Office within the Tianfang Earl territory. Many locals from the Tianfang Earl territory also participated in the assessment, as well as individuals like me from different barren territories. Zheng Yan answered calmly. Can the Tianfang Earl territory guarantee the promised benefits? Are there clear evaluation standards? I mean, for obtaining command of a fire seed warship. Chen Linfeng asked in a deep voice. The relevant benefits are all clearly stated and announced by the Tianfang Earl territory and are widely known. As for the command of a fire seed warship, no less than 3 teams have already received this honor. Zheng Yan answered with certainty. Since the right to recommend reserve talents is not difficult to obtain, why don't a few of us try to find a way to take the assessment individually, instead of joining your team? Ding Ling's tone was light, but the question she raised was the sharpest. The difficulty of the assessment is quite high, and it also considers various comprehensive qualities, including leadership. Even I passed with great difficulty. To be honest, among everyone present, only I could pass. Zheng Yan smiled. Everyone remained silent, but they understood. Since it was a team format, the requirements for the leader would naturally not be low. It required comprehensive qualities and specifically emphasized leadership, so among those present, there really was no one more suitable than Zheng Yan. In the academy, she was hailed as a true elite, a rare talent seen only once in 30 years. No matter how confident a few people were, they wouldn't dare say they could surpass Zheng Yan, who had continuously served as the student council president since her 2nd year. Seeing that several people seemed interested, Zheng Yan smiled. Only Wang Dong couldn't help but frown. Wang Dong, do you have any questions? Zheng Yan knew that if she could just keep pushing and win over Wang Dong, then today's matter would be settled. In a team, the abilities of the team members are certainly important, but in the early stages of team formation, especially during the upcoming several-year training period, lacking corresponding interest ties, what is even more important is internal harmony and cohesion. Therefore, the initial team members she chose were more inclined towards classmates she knew well and had been with for many years, rather than more capable people she met later. Ability is easy to cultivate, but team cohesion is not so simple. The Tianfang Earl territory is a barren territory with a heritage of over 1,000 years. The current Earl of Tianfang has been in power for over 80 years. After a moment of silence, Wang Dong suddenly spoke. The Tianfang Earl territory is a barren territory with a heritage of over 1,000 years. The current Earl of Tianfang has been in power for over 80 years. He was still talking about something seemingly unrelated to tonight's topic. But Zheng Yan and the others had no intention of interrupting, listening quietly. They didn't believe Wang Dong would simply say nonsense. Due to a lack of talent and sufficient perseverance, the current Earl of Tianfang's forging technique cultivation level is not high, and his health has always been poor. He hasn't managed affairs for over 20 years. The Earl of Tianfang's more than 10 adult children each handle a variety of internal and external affairs within the Tianfang Earl territory. In recent years, as the Earl of Tianfang's health has progressively worsened, the intensity of the struggle among his children has sharply increased. In this situation, ordinary people, once drawn in, are basically cannon fodder. Wang Dong's tone was calm as he spoke slowly. Furthermore, the area of reserve talent development is controlled by the Earl of Tianfang's third son. He is notoriously a scoundrel. He can't even be called a playboy. A playboy at least plays a game of mutual consent with you, but a scoundrel accepts anyone and then turns his back on them afterward. With reserve talent development in his hands, it has basically evolved into a disguised beauty pageant in recent years. As for the promised Fire Seed Warship Command Authority, it's not ownership. Changes in ownership would reduce the Fire Seed Warship's source points acquisition rate, so it's generally not changed casually. And command authority is just a matter of a single sentence. Seeing everyone's expressions change repeatedly, especially Zheng Yan's, which turned from red to green, then green to white, and finally red again as Wang Dong spoke, Wang Dong felt an urge to sigh. The girl was still too young, and there were too many dirty tricks in society. If she wasn't careful, she might not even leave a trace of her bones. Wang Dong, is what you're saying true? Don't tell me it's just hearsay. The Tianfang Earl territory is a major power in the Northern Territory Star region, how could its internal situation be so deplorable? Seeing Zheng Yan bite her lip and remain speechless for a moment, Li Ziqing asked bluntly. Wang Dong chuckled. Before his rebirth, the Tianfang Earl territory was also one of Wang Dong's major enemies. Wang Dong had put effort into specifically gathering this basic information. Its authenticity was completely guaranteed. But he certainly couldn't state that as the reason. The class monitor has her channels, and I have mine. As long as you know what you're looking for, such information is actually not difficult to get. Anyway, I suggest that before making a decision on this matter, be a bit more cautious. We are still young and have plenty of time. Wang Dong didn't need to explain too much. As long as they had some caution in their hearts, they would naturally find ways to understand. As classmates, he couldn't just watch them jump into a pit of fire. Because of Wang Dong's interjection, the originally exciting mobilization meeting ended with everyone preoccupied with their own thoughts. Zheng Yan promised to find other channels to verify Wang Dong's information and apologized to everyone. Her attitude was very proper. Li Ziqing and the others didn't push it too far. They would certainly try to gather information themselves when they returned. Ding Ling, at the end, gently tugged on Wang Dong's sleeve, indicating she had something to say. Wang Dong understood and slowed his pace, the two of them falling behind. Last night at dinner, I heard my father say that another Fire Seed warship and an assault ship arrived near the mining area planet yesterday. And neither of them seemed to be from the Zijing Kingdom. They are cruising in the nearby airspace, their purpose unknown. The patrol fleet stationed on the mining area planet has already entered a state of high alert and has requested assistance from the Blackstone Barony. Try not to go out mining during this time. If you absolutely have to go, be extremely careful. Wang Dong's heart sank, and he nodded solemnly. After his rebirth, Wang Dong did not immediately deal with Sima Disao. On one hand, it was naturally because his hard power wasn't enough, and he was afraid of revealing his hand if he played tricks. On the other hand, he hoped not to alert his opponents and attract more troublesome entities. Sima Disao's abilities were ordinary, and Wang Dong felt little pressure dealing with him. But the subsequent forces dispatched by the Jin family were not to be underestimated. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong used a trap and geographical advantage to eliminate Sima Disao. Afterward, he faced Sima Dalang and Sima Zongda. Among them, Sima Dalang was a legitimate direct descendant of the Jin family, and his abilities were actually only average. But the key was that this guy, compared to Sima Disao, exhibited more characteristics of a direct descendant of the Jin family. That is, recklessness. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong revealed a small clue, making him a suspect. Sima Dalang speculated that Wang Dong, as an interstellar miner familiar with the mining district environment, might have hidden the battle axe in the asteroid belt mining area, and immediately took extreme measures. Completely disregarding the fact that he was in a foreign land, he dared to brazenly order full firepower bombardment of the asteroid belt mining area, attempting to locate where the battle axe was hidden. This action directly led to astronomical environmental chaos within the asteroid belt mining area, causing the deaths of hundreds of interstellar miners. Towards the mining area Starfield patrol fleet that came to stop him, Sima Dalang even took the initiative to attack, relying on the formidable combat power of his LV.12 Fire Seed warship to rout the patrol fleet. Afterward, he completely disregarded international conventions, commanding his warship to approach the mining area planet, threatening to conduct orbital bombardment. Arrogant and reckless. It was quite a headache. As for the other person, Sima Zongda, although he was only a collateral descendant of the Jin family and was not even allocated a Fire Seed warship, commanding only an ordinary assault ship. However, Sima Zongda was meticulous in thought and had astonishing insight. All the clues Wang Dong left behind were captured one by him, and his true identity was quickly discovered. If it weren't for the huge conflict between Sima Zongda and Sima Dalang, had they worked together, Wang Dong before his rebirth might not have lasted even a month. Ding Ling's news came very timely, letting Wang Dong know that his efforts to reduce trouble seemed largely unsuccessful. Sima Disao hadn't even had an accident yet, and Sima Dalang and Sima Zongda arrived one after another. The intense competitive atmosphere within the Jin family was well deserved. However, Wang Dong was not flustered. Since his rebirth, Wang Dong's course of action has basically been based on the worst-case scenario, assuming the enemy is formidable. The appearance of Sima Dalang and Sima Zongda was, of course, within the acceptable margin of error. After his rebirth, Wang Dong had never appeared before the Jin family members, which was incomparable to before. He wouldn't be exposed so easily. He was in the dark, and the Jin family's arrivals were in the open. It's good to save trouble, but a bit of excitement isn't without its benefits. It's easier to fish in troubled waters. Right. July 1st, cloudy. Another mining day. Wang Dong did not take Ding Ling's reminder lightly. Sima Dalang's recklessness indeed made Wang Dong more vigilant. However, after much deliberation, Wang Dong still chose to head to the mining district. Sima Dalang was reckless, but without any clues, he wouldn't brazenly attack the entire mining district like he did before his rebirth. That wouldn't be recklessness, that would be insanity. Sima Dalang was arrogant and overbearing, but he was definitely not a fool. The ship Wang Dong chose this time was a Prospector Type 2 near-space mining vessel. The Prospector Type 2 was slender, a small one among near-space mining vessels. Its cargo capacity was not high, but in return, it was agile and had stable flight. Compared to large vessels like the Mining Machine 2, the Prospector Type 2 had stronger adaptability within the asteroid belt mining area. Piloting the Prospector Type 2 out of the mining area planet's atmosphere, what greeted him was a small space fortress. The space fortress, with its power fully engaged, adopted a multifaceted combat stance. The dozens of defensive turrets of various specifications covering it, along with its thick armor and shields, all highlighted the power of this defensive system. To conserve energy, although the mining area planet was equipped with a small space fortress, it was in energy-saving mode most of the time. Evidently, the arrival of several Fire Seed warships one after another had put the mining area planet on alert. This type of space fortress was a planetary defense system. Relying on the planet as its base, it could unleash considerable combat power. Fire Seed warships below LV-10 could not inflict fatal damage on it. It could even hold its own against Fire Seed warships below LV-15. The patrol fleet of the mining area starfield also raised its alert level accordingly. The Prospector Type 2 also needed to undergo an identity verification before being cleared for passage. Wang Dong was a little surprised. It should be said that the mining area planet's response was very swift. In this situation, as long as the Jin family's few Fire Seed warships hadn't obtained definite intelligence, they would generally not choose to directly fall out and engage the mining area planet. Flying all the way to the mining district, nothing unusual occurred. When docking at the advancing base, Wang Dong noticed that a little less than half of the interstellar miners who came out to mine were gone. Seeking advantage and avoiding harm is human nature. Some miners still chose to wait until the situation became clearer. Lao Shi was also one of them, which made Wang Dong's ears much quieter. After greeting, little Lena, who was 180 centimeters tall and weighed 180 kilograms, Wang Dong, following an open window period, entered the asteroid belt mining area. This time, Wang Dong did not directly delve deep into the asteroid belt mining area. Instead, he chose to pilot the Prospector Type 2 along the outer edge of the mining district, heading towards the middle section of the asteroid belt. One reason for this was to avoid going deep into the asteroid belt mining area so that if anything unforeseen happened, he could quickly escape. Secondly, although the middle section of the asteroid belt mining area's outer edge was on the periphery, it was rarely visited. Miners without capability could only mine near the entry point, while capable miners often delve deep into the mining district. The middle section of the outer edge of the mining district, conversely, became a blind spot. Wang Dong piloted the Prospector Type 2, nimbly shuttling through the mining district, lightly picking his prey. According to the original timeline, a few months later, in the middle section of the asteroid belt mining area, an old miner discovered a concentrated deposit containing intermediate energy crystals. This old miner became rich overnight, immigrated out of the mining area starfield, and went to a more prosperous planet to enjoy his later years. At that time, Wang Dong happened to be on Blackstone Star, the capital of the Blackstone Barony, and also heard this news. Unlike most people who just watched the excitement, Wang Dong, being a miner by origin and with his auxiliary system's need for energy crystals, paid special attention to this news. He even went to great lengths to contact this old miner to see if he could acquire some energy crystals from him. The acquisition, of course, yielded no results. The old miner had already been thoroughly exploited during his departure from the mining area planet. But he still managed to inquire about a lot of specific information. This included the discovery location. After his rebirth, Wang Dong did not immediately come to search for this mineral deposit because conditions did not permit it. A few units of low-level energy crystals could still be tucked away and brought home. If the quantity was large, it would not go unnoticed. Only after getting a warship and having a place to store them could this mining point be excavated. Additionally, the entire asteroid belt mining area was in a state of relative motion, so even if Wang Dong knew the details of the mineral deposit, it would still take some time to search for it. Based on the operational laws of the asteroid belt, backtracking, there are three possible coordinate ranges for the mineral deposit at relative coordinates x32, y12, z26. One of them is located deep in the mining district, which will be left for last. Wang Dong calculated in his mind and, based on the results, first chose a closer location. 8 hours later, Wang Dong carefully piloted the spaceship to the vicinity of the first coordinate point and began scanning with the mineral detector. Not this one, nor that one. After scanning most of the celestial bodies one by one, Wang Dong found nothing apart from some common minerals. Clearly, the first location was not the correct one. Wang Dong's 10 hours of work were all in vain. But he didn't mind. A 1/3 chance, it was normal not to hit it. I hope the next coordinate point brings good luck. Wang Dong prayed silently. Calculating coordinate points was not easy. If it weren't for the assistance of the pond's onboard optical computer, Wang Dong wouldn't have been able to do it on his own. This mining period would only allow Wang Dong to explore 2 coordinate points at most. He still needed some time to collect enough minerals to turn in. Concealing his identity was the most important thing right now. And when he set out to search again on the next mining day, the target coordinate points would need to be recalculated. The calculation results might be 2, or 3, or more. It was unlikely to be just 1. This meant he would have to continue trying his luck. Wang Dong disliked this kind of reliance on luck. It would be best if he could solve it in one go. After another 7+ hours of flight, the Prospector Type 2 arrived at the second coordinate point. After nearly 20 hours of continuous spaceship operation, Wang Dong was already somewhat fatigued. The cultivation of the forging technique can enhance physical fitness and energy, but unfortunately, the starlight grass needed for entry into the forging technique is monopolized by the privileged class, and without the right connections, it's difficult to obtain. Although he knew that once Wang Dong's illegitimate son status was recognized by Blackstone Baron after some time, he would be brought back to Blackstone Star immediately, and then acquiring starlight grass would be a very easy matter. But Wang Dong still greatly missed the abundant energy and stamina he had after achieving minor success in forging technique cultivation before his rebirth. He skillfully opened the mineral detector and began exploring the nearby asteroid minerals. This set of actions had long become ingrained muscle memory for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have recovered to the level of an elite miner so quickly after his rebirth. The data feedback from the detector flowed like a waterfall across the small virtual screen in front of Wang Dong. Wang Dong immediately captured the information within it. Scaly ore. This was a very rare mineral. Its surface presented a magnificent metallic luster. Aside from being used as decoration, it had almost no practical use, and therefore, its value was not high. But miners were very fond of it. Because within this ore, energy crystals were often encased. And in Wang Dong's memory, one of the characteristics of that mineral deposit was the presence of scaly ore. Hold steady, the answer isn't revealed yet. Wang Dong suppressed his excitement. Although scaly ore had been found, it was still uncertain whether it was just an isolated case, and whether energy crystals were indeed contained within it was still an unknown until it was cut open. Carefully approaching, he deployed the magnetic restraint, extended the mining equipment, and began cracking and collecting. 30 minutes later, after Wang Dong used a small manual drill to chisel open the last layer of scaly ore, he gazed at the fist-sized intermediate energy crystal contained within. Nearly 2 units of intermediate energy crystal. Coupled with the subsequent detection where Wang Dong successively discovered multiple traces of scaly ore. Without a doubt, Wang Dong had found the correct answer at the second coordinate point. Haha, thank you, fate, for smiling upon me. Wang Dong laughed heartily. And he seized the time, prioritizing the collection of all nearby scaly ore into the Prospector Type 2's cargo hold. As for the further cracking and collection of the energy crystals within, Wang Dong was not in a hurry to do so. Time was precious and could not be entirely consumed by the lengthy process of manual cracking. As long as these scaly ores were collected first and transferred to the pond, Wang Dong could completely perform this procedure leisurely later. After all types of ore in the vicinity of the coordinate point, not just scaly ore, but also various other common minerals, were completely mined out, Wang Dong finally left the area. Although other types of ore were not as likely to contain energy crystals as scaly ore. It was better to kill 1,000 than to let one slip. Since this was a rich deposit of energy crystals, it was clear that the possibility of other types of minerals containing energy shield was far higher than in other places. If it was just rough mining, Wang Dong was willing to invest this amount of time. It was 5 hours later when Wang Dong carefully piloted the Prospector Type 2 to rendezvous with the pond. On the pond, Wang Dong unloaded the 100 tons of minerals he had harvested this time, which potentially contained energy crystals. He also loaded some of the higher value minerals stored on the pond. These were minerals Wang Dong had collected earlier, intended for the reinforcement and upgrade of the pond's onboard modules. With little mining time left, Wang Dong decided to use this stored portion first, to serve as the normal yield for this mining trip. Of course, these gains were not enough, so Wang Dong still needed to drag his tired body, continue to pilot the Prospector Type 2, and collect some other minerals. Rushing against time, Wang Dong managed to fill 7 or 8/10 of the Prospector Type 2's cargo hold with minerals of medium value or higher, just before the normal mining time ended. This would be an acceptable explanation. On the way back, Wang Dong encountered several mining spaceships traveling together. During their sporadic conversations, Wang Dong received an interesting piece of news. Someone was offering a reward for any valuable information regarding Fire Seed warships and their onboard modules. Due to the nature of their work, interstellar miners are a relatively closed group. All they need is exquisite skill, and the only people they deal with are their peers and mining companies. The fact that such a closed group could receive this reward indicates that the rewarder went to great lengths to collect intelligence. Furthermore, the rewarder did not care about revealing his own existence. This kind of approach and style immediately led Wang Dong to identify the rewarder. Sima Delang, it was most likely him. Wang Dong chuckled. Although he had never been good at various schemes and intrigues, the informational advantage regarding his enemies, brought by his rebirth, was enough for him to impersonate a brilliant strategist a few times. Last time, Sima Delang had used similar methods. So Wang Dong had already prepared countermeasures to turn the tables and divert the trouble. The 4th Merchant Fleet of the Tianfang Earl territory was led by Wu Hao's. During this trade mission, he successfully acquired a purple quality onboard module. This onboard module was not very practical for general Fire Seed warships. But for Wang Dong and the Pond, it could be considered perfectly complementary. This merchant fleet of the Earl of Tianfang possessed considerable escorting military strength and was currently docked near the mining area Starfield. Wu Hao's himself was traveling on his own flagship to the mining area planet to handle relevant trade matters. A few days ago, after receiving a reminder from Ding Ling, Wang Dong carefully disguised himself and gradually released information in places like bars. The rumors about the Tianfang Earl territory's 4th merchant fleet recently acquiring a high-quality onboard module were originally just gossip and jokes. After a few days, as time passed, they would naturally be replaced by new gossip. But what if it happened to coincide with someone offering a reward for all information about Fire Seed warships and high-quality onboard modules? Then, Wu Hao's himself was someone Wang Dong had marked down in his mental notebook. Wang Dong was also quite envious of the onboard module he was transporting this time. Wang Dong dared not act directly. He couldn't win. They had 2 Fire Seed warships above LV-10, plus several other auxiliary warships. But it didn't matter if Wang Dong couldn't do it, there were still the Jin family's 2 Fire Seed warships. Sima Zongda was meticulous and would not act rashly. But Sima Disao and Sima Delang were different. As long as it could be confirmed that there was a high-quality onboard module within the Tianfang Earl territory's 4th merchant fleet. And, it was at such a sensitive time and sensitive location, with Yuan Shu certainly dead and the battle axe's whereabouts unknown. Given the Jin family's consistent style, they would definitely not let Wu Hao's merchant fleet go. If the high-quality module in Wu Hao's merchant fleet indeed came from Yuan Shu's battle axe, that would naturally be best. Even if it wasn't, in the complete absence of the battle axe's whereabouts, acquiring other high-quality onboard modules would still be acceptable to the Jin family. In addition, as time went on, and Sima Delang's grand reward, which was akin to flushing out the snake, the Jin family's purpose in coming to the remote mining area Starfield was largely guessed. The local forces within the mining area Starfield were also interested in Yuan Shu's battle axe. The muddier the water, the easier it is to fish. Wu Hao's merchant fleet, the Jin family's Fire Seed warships, the local forces of the mining area Starfield, plus other wanderers who might be drawn by the scent of blood. This water was already sufficiently murky. Wang Dong, hidden in the shadows, would then have a chance of successfully fishing. Wang Dong returned to the mining area planet smoothly, to say nothing of it. After several days of fermentation, the reward issued by the mysterious person received a large amount of feedback. On Sima Delang's flagship, the intelligence officer had already carried out an initial summary of the collected intelligence. Captain, the preliminary analysis report is out. As of now, a total of 123,000 pieces of relevant intelligence have been received, and after initial screening, 132 pieces of valuable intelligence remain. At first glance, the proportion of valuable intelligence, only 0.1%, seemed quite exaggerated. In fact, this is quite normal in intelligence work. So-called intelligence work is not like in some films, where it's just a process of sneaking into important places and stealing important documents from safes. On the contrary, in reality, collecting a massive amount of various information through various channels and then filtering out information containing corresponding value is the real intelligence work. It's not an exaggeration to describe it as searching for a needle in a haystack. The intelligence officers on Sima Dalang's flagship were able to complete the collection and organization of intelligence within a few short days, which indicates a good level of professional competence. The report continued. Through the classification and preliminary screening of 132 valuable pieces of intelligence, we eliminated 54 pieces with an accuracy rate below 30%, 62 pieces that were past their time limit, and 13 pieces that exceeded our capabilities, leaving 3 pieces of intelligence with actionable value. The total cost incurred is. Sima Dalang raised his hand, stopping the intelligence officer from continuing. Just tell me the intelligence directly, don't waste time with other trivial details. The intelligence officer, accustomed to this, skipped the subsequent report and went straight to the analysis results. The first piece of intelligence, the Earl of Tianfang's 4th Merchant Fleet, currently stationed near the mining area Starfield, is transporting high-quality shipborne modules. It is suspected to have been acquired recently. The accuracy of this intelligence exceeds 80%. The second piece of intelligence, a Fire Seed warship has been frequently appearing in the asteroid belt mining area recently. Based on the description of its appearance, it can be identified as Sima Disau's flagship. This intelligence has been confirmed. The third piece of intelligence, one of the Star Pirates groups located at the border between the Blackstone Barony and the Highland Viscount territory may possess a high-quality shipborne module. The probability of this intelligence being true is 35%. Sima Dalang revealed a sinister smile. So, the only suspect right now is that Earl of Tianfang's merchant fleet, then. The intelligence officer respectfully said. After multiple discussions among colleagues and a comprehensive review of all currently collected intelligence, we unanimously believe that Yuan Shu is dead, and the probability of the battle axe self-destructing without an owner is the highest. Under this premise, the Earl of Tianfang's 4th Merchant Fleet and local forces in the mining area Starfield have the highest probability of finding the wreckage of the battle axe. Of course, we cannot rule out the suspicion that Sima Disau and Sima Zongda acquired it first. Regarding the intelligence officer mentioning Sima Disau, Sima Dalang impatiently snorted. I know that guy very well. If he had really found it, he wouldn't be acting like this now. Sima Zongda is a dog raised by Sima Disau, and everyone around him belongs to Sima Disau, so if he found it, it's equivalent to Sima Disau finding it. As for the local forces in the mining area Starfield, they don't even have a Fire Seed warship. Even if they found the wreckage of the battle axe, they would put it up for sale, so a little attention is enough. Instead, that Earl of Tianfang's merchant fleet has the greatest suspicion. Can you confirm that the merchant fleet's cargo includes high-quality shipborne modules? The intelligence officer nodded slightly. We used some methods to verify several members of the Earl of Tianfang's merchant fleet. The conclusion is that there are indeed high-quality shipborne modules within the merchant fleet, but it cannot be confirmed whether they came from the battle axe. Sima Dalang laughed heartily. No matter, as long as there are high-quality shipborne modules, we won't lose out. Yuan Shu's mission was taken by Sima Disau, and he will also bear the blame for its failure. I came here to reap the benefits. Success is welcome, but failure is also fine. If I can get something out of it, then it's pure profit. You can start formulating an operational plan against the Earl's merchant fleet. The intelligence officer hesitated slightly. Captain, the Earl of Tianfang is the largest power in the nearby Starfield, and his merchant fleet's escort force is not weak. Relying solely on our ship, the probability of achieving ideal results is too low. Sima Dalang's face instantly darkened, and he said displeased ly, what is there to be concerned about with a mere local power? After we succeed, we will leave the Zijing Kingdom and return to the Goldfinch Federation. Whether he is the Earl of Tianfeng or the Marquis of Tianfeng, it's all useless. As for the escort force, how much strength can a merchant fleet have? Moreover, at this time, Sima Disao is the most anxious. If he fails to complete the mission, his own evaluation will be deducted. You just need to tell him this intelligence, and are you still afraid he won't lead the charge? A bunch of idiots, raising you all is a waste of resources. The intelligence officer was scolded mercilessly but dared not refute in the slightest. He complied submissively, and only after Sima Delang's anger subsided did he cautiously advise, the Earl of Tianfeng's 4th Merchant Fleet has 12 escort warships. Among them are 2 LV-10 Fire Seed warships, 4 reconnaissance ships, and 6 assault ships, in addition to 8 large transport ships. The Operations Department's suggestion is whether Captain could personally reach some kind of consensus with Sima Disao, for the 2 ships to fight together. 2 LV-10 Fire Seed warships, plus as many as 10 ordinary warships. Upon hearing the strength of the Earl of Tianfeng's 4th Merchant Fleet, Sima Delang was slightly surprised. Even though his flagship's comprehensive combat rating reached LV-12, Sima Delang understood that relying solely on himself or Sima Disao, neither side alone could take them on. He certainly wouldn't admit his previous mistake. The useless people in the operations department are at least somewhat useful. Alright, I will personally go to trick Sima Disao into leading the charge. Waving the intelligence officer away, Sima Delang pondered for a moment, then connected to Sima Disao's communication. On Sima Disao's flagship. After ending the communication with Sima Delang with a gloomy expression, Sima Disao grabbed the ornament on the table in front of him and angrily smashed it to the ground. Sima Delang, you are going too far. Not only do you want me to lead the charge, but you also want the lion's share of the spoils. After a storm of venting, Sima Disao gasped for air, his eyes bloodshot, and he glanced at his adjutant, who dared not even breathe. Connect me to Sima Zongda. Half a day later, the Jin family's 2 Fire Seed warships reached a consensus and began to operate in formation, patrolling outside the mining area Starfield. Sima Zongda's assault ship, after identity verification, landed on the mining area planet. Wang Dong was unaware of the Jin family fleet's convergence. To remain hidden, the pond always maintained silence, concealed within the asteroid belt. But the bait had already been cast, and Wang Dong had a deep understanding of the character of the Jin family's disciples. He had a fairly accurate guess about the course of action they might take. He didn't need to try and ascertain the movements of the Jin family's warships. He only needed to monitor Wu Haozi's whereabouts. Within the mining area Starfield, if Wu Haozi's merchant group encountered trouble, he could choose to approach the mining area planet at any time to receive assistance from the space fortress and patrol fleet. This was permitted by the limited mutual assistance responsibility among nobles of the Zijing Kingdom. If the Jin family's warships were to target Wu Haozi's merchant group, they would certainly choose to do so after leaving the mining area Starfield for some distance. The mining area Starfield belongs to the Blackstone Barony, but it is actually an exclave. This remote starfield is separated from other starfields by large expanses of valueless uninhabited areas. There were still many suitable locations along the routes to make a move. As for the local forces of the mining area Starfield, Wang Dong, of course, would not be as unconcerned as Sima Delang. Although in terms of hard power, these local forces, such as the Kongsha Merchant Guild, the Tianyu Merchant Group, and even the Kui Nao Guild Hall, might not even be able to field a single Fire Seed warship. But local powers should never be underestimated. Just like the bounty Sima Delang previously issued, the involvement of local forces was indispensable. The intelligence Sima Delang obtained at a high price could be acquired by local forces almost effortlessly as a copy. Under these circumstances, if the Jin family's warships wanted to attack the Earl of Tianfeng's merchant group, these moles would likewise not mind taking a bite. This was also a variable, and Wang Dong, who was planning to fish in troubled waters, also needed to pay attention to it. Wu Haozi's whereabouts also did not require Wang Dong to act personally. By maintaining contact with Zheng Yan, Wang Dong could easily get news about Wu Haozi. In the past few days, Zheng Yan had already verified Wang Dong's previous information through other channels. Within the Tianfang Earl territory, there were indeed significant shady dealings regarding the construction of reserve talent. The selection of reserve talent was still ongoing, and there were indeed talents who stood out. But there were also many beautiful women who, under the guise of so-called reserve talent, completely disappeared after being brought into the Tianfang Earl territory. With Zheng Yan's abilities, she could indeed pass the assessment for reserve talent. But equally, with her looks and figure, it would indeed be difficult for her to avoid the covetous gaze of the Earl of Tianfang's third son. Unless she was prepared to sacrifice herself without compensation, this path was unfeasible. Then it was quite obvious what role Wu Hao's played in all of this. To put it bluntly, he was a pimp. One could imagine Zheng Yan's disgust towards him. Women are not like gentlemen, they always seek revenge from morning till night. As far as Wang Dong knew, Zheng Yan had been actively trying to teach Wu Hao's a lesson recently. She also indeed needed to take some action to respond. Otherwise, in the eyes of Li Ziqing, Ding Ling, and others who knew the situation, Zheng Yan's image would undoubtedly plummet. This impact would even spread to all classmates and even the entire school. It would undoubtedly cause serious negative consequences for Zheng Yan's network. This was a manifestation of being unable to control oneself when caught in the currents of life. Many times, it's not that you can back down just because you want to. People who are in the limelight or in leadership positions truly cannot back down. So if you really want to be low-key, you can't expect to show off while also remaining low-key. That's self-deception. Through Zheng Yan, Wang Dong obtained a lot of intelligence. Wu Hao's main purpose in coming to the mining area planet this time was to purchase a batch of high-value minerals. After Zheng Yan exerted pressure through various channels at all costs, she successfully caused the price of Wu Hao's current procurement to increase by 25%, while the procurement volume decreased by 20%. This achievement was considered a significant setback for Wu Hao's, and it would affect his performance evaluation score. Of course, she and Wu Hao's had also completely fallen out. Also involved in assisting Zheng Yan were Li Ziqing, Ding Ling, and Chen Linfeng. Ding Ling, backed by the chief of security of the mining area planet, was almost packaged and sold to the Tianfang Earl territory. How could she swallow that indignity? Li Ziqing was similar, using her family's connections in the business world to fan the flames. Chen Linfeng's ancestors ran a martial arts school, so he had some influence in certain areas. Even Wang Dong made many small moves on the mining company's side. In this small corner of the mining area planet, as local powers, they were still able to do some things. The combined efforts of several parties not only brought considerable trouble to Wu Hao's, but through their cooperation, the relationships between them also changed somewhat from before. Although the news brought by Zheng Yan did not truly provide an upward channel. But she successfully awakened the ambitions in their hearts. This grouping together was a subconscious reaction. Wu Hao's, looking dejected, finalized the deal, and the goods would be loaded 5 days later, after which he would leave the mining area Starfield. Additionally, during Zheng Yan's investigation of Wu Hao's, she discovered that someone else was also collecting intelligence on Wu Hao's and his merchant fleet. More critically, Wang Dong actually knew this person. It was Sima Zongda. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong had many dealings with Sima Zongda. Sima Zongda was a collateral descendant of the Jin family, meaning he came from a very low background, considered one of the most marginalized in the family. Not only was his background poor, but his family circumstances were also very difficult. His parents died when he was young, and he and his sister relied on each other. Sima Zongda, relying on his intelligence and step-by-step efforts, not only restored his family's fortunes but also elevated them to a new height. If it had stopped there, his growth trajectory would have been a model for the rise of a collateral descendant. Unfortunately, Sima Zongda's background determined his ceiling within the Jin family system. After reaching a certain level, overt and covert ceilings appeared one after another. At the same time, maintaining independence became an impossible task. Under these circumstances, Sima Zongda had no choice but to pledge allegiance to Sima Disao. This time, it was at Sima Zongda's suggestion that Sima Disao accepted the mission to pursue Yuan Shu and the battle axe. The defection of Yuan Shu's crew members and the ambush of Yuan Shu were also Sima Zongda's doing, directly leading to Yuan Shu's death. It was only due to Sima Disao's oversight in the actual operation that Yuan Shu had a chance to escape, extending his life by 24 hours and allowing the battle axe to be inherited by Wang Dong. After losing track of Yuan Shu and the battle axe, Sima Disao was forced to summon Sima Zongda for support. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong's desperate stand, which sank Sima Disao's flagship, made Sima Zongda the successor to Yuan Shu's mission. Through his meticulous investigation, Wang Dong's true identity was quickly uncovered. And by recognizing the anomalies Wang Dong was forced to reveal, he realized the immense value Wang Dong possessed, far exceeding Yuan Shu himself. Sima Zongda saw this as an opportunity to break through the ceiling and elevate his status, reporting it to the family. Then, Sima Dalang directly reaped the benefits. Compared to Sima Disao, Sima Zongda was even more helpless when facing malice from Sima Dalang. More seriously, there was also trouble at home. Sima Zongda's sister was fancied by a direct descendant. When he failed to force her, she was directly killed. Sima Zongda rushed back and caused a scene, but only managed to get some compensation. The direct descendant was severely punished, but after paying a certain price in benefits, that was all. Instead, Sima Zongda subsequently faced continuous suppression. Ultimately, this led to Sima Zongda defecting from the Jin family. In the previous life, during the critical moments when Wang Dong was being hunted by the Jin family, Sima Zongda provided assistance several times. Of course, this was for the purpose of retaliating against the Jin family. This was also why Wang Dong immediately recognized Sima Zongda. Sima Zongda was a talent. The trouble he caused the Jin family after defecting far surpassed what Wang Dong did. Unfortunately, no matter how humble Sima Zongda's status, he was still a member of the Jin family, enjoying the basic treatment of the privileged class. Compared to Wang Dong, he was infinitely better off. Otherwise, Wang Dong would truly have considered bringing him under his command. Sima Zongda's appearance further confirmed to Wang Dong that his plans were progressing smoothly. The two Jin family brothers were indeed targeting Wu Haozi's merchant fleet. Otherwise, Sima Zongda would not have needed to personally monitor Wu Haozi and collect intelligence. July 10, another mining day. With new targets for the Jin family warships, the threat to Wang Dong was greatly reduced. Wang Dong went to work as usual. One day was spent mining normally, and another day was spent on the pond, dissecting the previously collected ores one by one. After cutting open 1/3 of the ore, Wang Dong obtained 18 units of low-level energy crystal and 1 unit of intermediate energy crystal from it. Including the 2 units of intermediate energy crystal extracted last time, at least the pond would not have to worry about energy reserves in the short term. Wu Haozi's merchant fleet had completed loading yesterday. 2 transport spacecraft landed on the mining area planet, unloaded various goods needed by the mining area planet, and then loaded a large amount of high-value minerals. After resupply, the spacecraft took off and rendezvoused with the escort fleet, preparing to leave the mining area starfield and head to the next stop on the trade route. This was the daily routine of a merchant fleet. They stopped and traded at each station along the established fixed trade route. While earning profits, they also undertook other overt and covert missions. Within the Zijing Kingdom, without the support of a great noble, such stable long-term trade routes could not be established. The vast and boundless starry sky contained many lawless areas. Star pirates, remnants of alien races, and other unsettling factors existed in every corner of the Star Sea. The universe was not a peaceful and happy vacation spot. July 14, mining area planet, light rain. With the departure of Wu Haozi's merchant fleet, the 2 Fire Seed warships had also been out of sight for several days, and the mining area starfield seemed to have returned to its usual calm. The patrol fleet's alert level had not yet been lowered, but the space fortress had already been taken off combat readiness. Wang Dong walked through the streets, holding an umbrella. By his side was Ding Ling, following closely. Ahead, Chen Linfang, carefree and boisterous, was playfully splashing through the water, causing Li Ziqing to keep a wide distance from him. Wu Haozi won't just let this go after being humiliated, Ding Ling said, sounding worried. It's fine. The Tianfang Earl territory is preoccupied with its own affairs and hasn't exerted influence externally for many years. Besides, Wu Haozi is an outsider. At most, he has some business connections. He can't do anything to us, the local powers, Wang Dong said with a smile. Moreover, if anything happens, our class leader will be at the forefront. There's nothing to fear. Zheng Yan, who was lagging behind, rolled her eyes at Wang Dong, not caring if he saw it or not. There's no need to worry about Wu Hao's. The trouble he's gotten into this time is more than just a little. It's still up in the air whether he can return safely. It wasn't Ding Ling, who theoretically should have been more informed, who said this, but Chen Linfeng. This was quite unexpected. Under the concentrated gaze of everyone, Chen Linfeng couldn't help but scratch his head. Several local forces on the mining star have been active recently. Such large-scale movements can't be hidden from the locals. Only outsiders like Wu Hao's would be unaware of the news. Wang Dong understood. It was highly unlikely for martial arts halls not to be connected with local forces. The Kongsha Merchant Guild's 2 assault ships took off yesterday, destination unknown, Li Ziqing added. With the Kongsha Merchant Guild making a move, its arch-rival, the Tianyu Merchant Group, definitely won't stand idly by. Furthermore, the Quinao Guild Hall also seems keen on joining the excitement. Zheng Yan quickened her pace, past the others, then clasped her hands behind her back, turned to face them, and said softly. Wang Dong laughed heartily. It's rare to see the local forces of the mining star act in such unison. It's a pity we can't participate and can only wait for a result on the mining star. Indeed, at least 4 Fire Seed warships and 20 ordinary warships are involved. For the mining area starfield, a battle of this scale should be unprecedented and unrivaled, don't you think? Zheng Yan said wistfully, with a hint of longing. Everyone felt a sense of empathy. As commoners, they harbored lofty aspirations, dissatisfied with the status quo, and yearned for the stars. This was their common ground and the reason they met again today. Although Zheng Yan's hopes for advancement within the Tianfang Earl territory had failed, a small team had subtly and implicitly formed. However, Zheng Yan was no longer in a leadership position, a step ahead. Instead, everyone was relatively equal. I've always paid attention to the channels of advancement for commoners. But at least within the Zijing kingdom, it's quite unrealistic. Commoners cannot freely immigrate between noble territories, which greatly restricts population mobility and is not conducive to us studying abroad. Unless one gains the appreciation of a certain noble, commoners essentially have no channels for advancement, Zheng Yan said seriously. Exactly, so we should broaden our horizons. For example, the Zijing kingdom's neighboring country, the Goldfinch Federation. Li Ziqing's eyes sparkled with yearning as she nodded in agreement. Within the Goldfinch Federation, there are hundreds of medium-level educational academies, large and small, that enroll students from all social strata. Commoners in the Goldfinch Federation can completely achieve social mobility through a unified examination system. Democracy, freedom, what a desirable atmosphere. Moved by Li Ziqing's emotional description, Chen Linfeng asked with some longing, is the Goldfinch Federation really that good? Can we go to the Goldfinch Federation to develop? Ding Ling shook her head and said, I heard my father mention that the public order within the Goldfinch Federation is indeed better, there aren't as many star pirates or similar entities. But apart from that, it seems to be similar to the Zijing kingdom. What do you mean by, similar to the Zijing kingdom? Didn't they say that the Goldfinch Federation doesn't have noble territories, that people can move freely, and enjoy the benefits of social development? Li Ziqing asked in confusion. She wasn't questioning Ding Ling, but simply asking a question. Ding Ling's family background meant she had many advantages in acquiring certain information compared to ordinary people. After all, having been born and raised in a remote area like the mining area planet, even the most outstanding among them, Zheng Yan, was still limited by objective conditions and lacked a broad perspective. Or rather, she had virtually no perspective at all. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so easily deceived by Wu Hao's. It was mainly because she was misled by the prestigious name of the Tianfang Earl territory. The same was true now. The group was also misled by the Goldfinch Federation's external propaganda. After all, they were too far apart, and when they talked about it, it was all hearsay, so the accuracy was naturally questionable. Wang Dong chuckled and said, the privileged class within the Goldfinch Federation, compared to the Zijing kingdom, is more concerned with appearances. The propaganda is well done, and the superficial work is passable. There are indeed many medium-level educational academies, but only one is related to Fire Seed warships, the Federation Sky Patrol Medium-Level Educational Academy. Not only are the admission requirements high, but applicants can only be recent graduates. For us as foreigners, to obtain the qualification of a recent graduate. Ha. Everyone fell silent. Indeed, imagining themselves in a foreign land, unfamiliar with the people and places, not only having to solve identity issues but also obtaining the qualification of a recent graduate, this level of difficulty was not something young people who had only been in society for a few years could simply brainstorm a solution for. Also, our Blackstone barony is located on the side of the country far from the Goldfinch Federation. How can we cross the vast distance, measured in light years, pass through the various noble territories in between, and then cross the border line? Wang Dong's extremely realistic words shattered the yearning in their hearts. Are we just going to waste away like this? Someone murmured softly. Suddenly, everyone's mood became low. Soon after, they all dispersed. Wang Dong did this on purpose. Young people's emotions are inherently unstable. The path of social advancement, for anyone, is a goal worth striving for with one's entire life. Mere momentary passion is futile. Only true brave individuals with unwavering conviction, who can persevere and move forward with their initial resolve unchanged, even after experiencing countless setbacks and hardships, will have the hope of savoring the sweet taste of victory. The group had just found hope in Zheng Yan, only to have it severely suppressed. Then, through their collective retaliation against Wu Hao's, hope was rekindled. And then, Wang Dong suppressed it again. Such frequent fluctuations could easily make those with wavering resolve give up. If, in the short term, the group could rekindle the flame of hope, in Wang Dong's view, only then would they be considered truly ambitious individuals aspiring to transcend their social class. Only then would they be worthy of subsequent resource investment. After some time, when Wang Dong returned to the Duke's manor as an illegitimate son, he would also need his own team. Relatively speaking, 12 years of being classmates, finding suitable talents among these well-known classmates, was one of the most time and effort-saving channels. Returning home, Wang Dong took a short rest. In the afternoon, he packed his simple luggage and left punctually at 3 o'clock. A maglev RV was already parked at the entrance. Youth Tide Travel Agency is dedicated to serving you. May I confirm you are Mr. Wang Dong? According to your online booking, this Z3 luxury RV will be at your disposal for the next 15 days. The driver, dressed in a neat uniform, got out of the car and politely verified Wang Dong's identity code before handing him the RV's key. Although it was nominally called a luxury RV, it was actually just an ordinary RV. The price was not cheap. The half-month rental was nearly 80,000 yuan, almost equivalent to Wang Dong's entire net income from one mining trip. He had no choice but to spend this money. Wu Hao's caravan had already set sail and left the mining area Starfield. The Jin family's warship followed closely behind. Behind them, there was also a pack of hyenas, including local forces like the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Wang Dong had a considerable interest in this battle, how could he miss it? Not to mention that both the Jin family and Wu Hao's were targets on his hit list. The ship-mounted module that Wu Hao's caravan had acquired this time was also something Wang Dong was determined to get. The universe is vast and boundless. To track a specific caravan, one cannot stay too far away. Since Wu Hao's and the others had already departed, Wang Dong also needed to follow promptly. Today was only July 14th, still several days before Wang Dong's mining day. If he were to depart then to chase Wu Hao's caravan, they would have long since vanished without a trace. Moreover, Wang Dong could not be sure when or where the Jin family's warship would choose to act against Wu Hao's. This process could not be concealed by the 2 or 3 days of mining. So, Wang Dong simply cancelled his next mining day, opting instead for a self-driving tour under the guise of a vacation. Getting into the car, Wang Dong started the RV and left the city. The mining area planet was certainly not a tourist planet or anything similar. However, it had a sparse population, and the urbanized land area was even smaller. Large expanses of undeveloped land covered the planet's surface. Furthermore, before humans set foot on the mining area planet, no indigenous life forms were discovered, and the subsequent ecological environment was gradually cultivated. there were still quite a few places available for sightseeing and recreation. At the same time, the RV was also equipped with light self-defense weapons and enough supplies for half a month, ensuring basic safety. Then, through his personal smart terminal, Wang Dong changed his status to "Summer vacation has arrived, taking a few days off to relax. Leave a message if anything comes up." Immediately, a few comments popped up. Chen Linfang, relaxing, relaxing. I'm going to the bar for 30 hours first. Li Ziqing, envious of those with career freedom, able to control their own time. Ding Ling, don't get too tired, your health is important. Wang Dong scanned them one by one. For those that didn't require a response, he put them aside. At 9:30 p.m., Wang Dong had driven far away from the city. This distance should be enough, Wang Dong mumbled. He parked the vehicle and got out. Walking a few dozen meters away, he looked up at the sky. Without any light or sound, an armed robot was deployed next to Wang Dong. It was Pond. Pond, with its Mirage system in stealth mode, easily bypassed the alert line above the mining area planet, descended to the planet, and came to meet Wang Dong. In stealth mode, the previously conspicuous magnetic traction beam also became completely invisible. Under Wang Dong's command and assistance, this armed robot, originally responsible for security on Pond, put on the hooded clothes Wang Dong had prepared and then sat in the RV. Then Wang Dong removed his personal smart terminal and placed it on the armed robot. The decoy was set up. Ordinary driving skills were just a minor ability for an armed robot. Wang Dong set up instructions for the armed robot. During Wang Dong's absence, the armed robot would follow the preset instructions, driving to different scenic spots daily and spending nights in the wilderness to conceal Wang Dong's whereabouts. At the same time, Wang Dong also set up an emergency plan. Assuming a low probability event occurred, such as robbers or natural disasters, the armed robot would prioritize escape. Disappearing was always easier to explain than leaving behind the wreckage of an armed robot on the spot. Subsequently, Wang Dong boarded Pond via the magnetic traction beam. He did not rush to leave but controlled Pond to continue circling in the sky for nearly an hour. During this time, there were no unusual movements, and the Sky Patrol radar also detected nothing. Then, Pond raised its bow, accelerated, and broke free from the mining area planet's gravitational pull, entering the true cosmos. This was also the first time in many days that Pond had left the protection of the asteroid belt mining area. Stellar navigation officially began. Pond, constantly in stealth mode, sped away from the mining area planet. Before the 24-hour duration of stealth mode expired, Wang Dong found a suitable location and exited stealth mode early. Instead of abruptly revealing its presence and exposing the Mirage system's effect after the duration ended, it was better to proactively end it early and proceed in a normal manner. The Pond, having undergone a complete overhaul, was no longer the battle axe that had to constantly hide to evade the Jin family's pursuit. Wang Dong did not have the Pond proceed at full speed. With an incomplete crew and insufficient supplies, the Pond's combat power within this universe's space was not high. Although its overall combat rating was LV7, in Wang Dong's experience, it was questionable whether it could even perform at an LV5 level. The two Jin family Fire Seed warships had overall combat ratings of LV11 and LV12 respectively, while the two Fire Seed warships in Wuhaozi's merchant group were both LV10. All four Fire Seed warships were fully staffed and equipped, capable of fully utilizing their combat potential. There was no need to rush in and offer himself up as an easy target. Furthermore, Wuhaozi's merchant group had just left the mining area planet and could return at any time, making it an unsuitable moment to act. Wang Dong would only consider approaching the battlefield after the Jin family warships made their move. And he would only dare to approach while in a cloaked state. The LV-0 Mirage system's cloaking duration was 24 hours, requiring careful management. It could not be wasted casually. Although not at full speed, a Fire Seed warship's cruising speed was much higher than that of a transport ship. Therefore, the distance between the Pond and Wuhaozi's merchant group was constantly shrinking. Wang Dong was not a novice. 10 years of being hunted had forged his strong resolve and rich experience in pursuit and evasion. Wuhaozi's merchant group's route, especially the segment immediately after leaving the mining area planet, was not a secret. Wang Dong estimated the speed, distance, and other factors quite accurately. After half a day of pursuit, he successfully spotted the light points representing the warships on his Sky Patrol radar. Although they were just ordinary small warships, not Fire Seed warships. These should be the assault ships of local forces like the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Based on the ship type and number, Wang Dong had a good idea. Assault ships were small warships primarily used for offensive operations, offering good overall cost effectiveness but with limited upper potential. He then further reduced his speed, only ensuring that the few assault ships ahead would not leave the maximum detection range of the pond's Sky Patrol radar. Although the Sky Patrol radar on the pond was a quality-less ship module, its enhancement level had at least reached LV2. Its performance was a cut above the ordinary warships of local forces like the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Therefore, Wang Dong was able to effortlessly maintain a distance where, I can see you, but you can't see me. Trailing them from afar. The pond's detection range exceeded that of the Kongsha Merchant Guild's assault ships, but Wang Dong couldn't say it would exceed the Jin family's 2 Fire Seed warships. Therefore, Wang Dong would not risk approaching the Jin family warships and Wuhaozi's merchant group. Instead, he would determine the progress of events by observing the movements of the warships from local forces like the Kongsha Merchant Guild. This process of trailing from afar lasted for a full 2 days. It was quite monotonous. Yet, it was the daily routine of space travel. Even though he was alone, piloting a large warship by himself, Wang Dong still seemed relaxed. Compared to his life before rebirth, where he was often being hunted and constantly had to maintain a high state of alert, his current leisurely life only required activating automatic navigation and maintaining a fixed distance behind the warships ahead. Wang Dong expressed considerable satisfaction. July 17, 7:35 a.m. Beep beep beep. The ship's onboard computer emitted an urgent alert, startling Wang Dong, who was in the cargo hold, cleaving the previously collected ore. After 2 days of effort, Wang Dong had mostly cleaved the minerals collected from the energy crystal-rich point, with only some finishing touches remaining. He had obtained 33 units of low-level energy crystal and 5 units of intermediate energy crystal. At this time, the total number of low-level energy crystal on the pond reached 51 units, and the total number of intermediate energy crystal also reached 8 units. Wang Dong put down his tools and rushed to the command bridge. The few assault ships trailing far behind suddenly began to accelerate. This anomaly triggered Wang Dong's preset command, causing the ship's onboard computer to sound the alarm. Wang Dong pondered for a moment, then decisively gave the order. An hour later, the Mirage system completed charging, and the pond successfully entered its cloaked state. Immediately, the pond's engines went full throttle, chasing after the ships ahead. In reality, this battle, involving 4 Fire Seed warships and over a dozen ordinary small warships, began on July 17 at 6:12 a.m. Upon exiting the mining area starfield, Wuhao's had already noticed the warships dispatched by local forces from the mining area starfield, such as the Kongsha Merchant Guild, trailing some distance behind him. But he didn't pay it any mind. This was a public shipping lane, a necessary path for entering and exiting the mining area starfield. Moreover, the distance between them and the merchant group was kept far enough, not suggesting any ill intent. Instead, it seemed more like they were accompanying the merchant group, which had happened before. It was just that this time the scale was larger. The Kongsha Merchant Guild's only 2 assault ships and 1 reconnaissance ship were all present. The Tianyu merchant group had also mobilized almost all its forces, likewise 3 small warships. Most surprisingly was the Quinao Guild Hall, which primarily dealt in selling information, yet also dispatched 2 assault ships, indicating considerable strength. The unexpected occurred 2 days into the merchant group's journey after leaving the mining area starfield. Thanks for watching.